Check YouTube. We are live.
From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Reef.
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it? Whether we're young or old.
Here comes a candle to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the American Reef Factory Podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
Andrew.
And we have a new friend with us tonight for a little bit. This is my new Bailey. You can see her.
See, some fur and an eye.
Yeah. Like black. Like, so you guys know, let's see if we can do this. Will annoy you. You ready for this? It's a light. See, now she looks like a rock star.
Don't get rid of you, a complex.
This is our new dog. It's another Schnoodle. We'll go to Central Ohio to get her. So
Seems like quite a drive.
yeah, it is. It's the one of the best places though to get them, and she's cute. Very small. She weighs 4 pounds. Probably going to be half the size of Molly. She likes to bite my beard. I think she thinks there's a nipple under it, or to root through it.
So a Schnoodle is a Schnauzer and a Poodle, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is one of the calmest puppies I've ever seen in my life. This dog's really laid back. She's like 10 weeks old now. For the whole show.
She doesn't want to go for walks. She just wants to go for lay downs.
Yeah, she likes to run around. We're doing bell training with her, so she rings a bell when she wants to go to the bathroom. We haven't quite got that perfect yet.
Yeah, I know. Hopefully she doesn't abuse the policy, but who knows?
Well, you see, you teach them to ring a bell, then you give them a treat.
Oh.
And they, associate that with the potty, but for a while they just go ring the bell every time they want a treat.
Well, I know Matt's dog Ringo, like he just rings the bell if he wants to go outside. Doesn't matter if he has to go to the bathroom or not. So
Yeah.
Just classic Pavlov experiments going on here.
Oh yeah. Just a lot of mine. She's pretty cool. Had her about. I don't know how long have you been here? Since Thursday? Yeah. Had her since Thursday. Here she goes.
I know they're like a hypoallergenic dog. They don't shed or anything and stuff like that.
They don't shed. They can. Some of them have dander, some of them don't. They're just really even-tempered dogs. Don't have to worry about easy to train. Not a German police dog or anything. Special training. It's like you're supposed
Bye. Bye, mysterious stranger.
I don't know if she gets.
Bye, Bailey. Go fight with Sasha Banks again.
Yeah.
That's a wrestling reference. None of you will understand.
I didn't get that. In your camera, there's like a string in the right hand. No, it's like right here on the screen.
Oh, it's probably.
Oh yeah, it's the light bulb string.
Oh, it's the light bulb string. Okay. Saw this thing moving around. I was like, what is that?
There is a light bulb just above.
It's the noose. If the podcast doesn't go well, if we don't get 100 viewers, one of us here in Cedar Rapids, since there's like 2 people here, we're gonna hang ourselves.
Well, being that our most popular video ever only has like 100 views.
That's a high.
This is like the gun to the dog's head on National Lampoon. This is gonna work.
Well, but the channel's highest rated video is the time I beat Dan Reichert's Mario Maker level. That got like 3,000 views.
Huh.
And comments.
Hmm.
But it wasn't like comments addressed at me. It's like comments meant for other people to then comment on. It's like, okay.
The old inboard discussion.
Let's not talk about the thing that we're talking about.
Yeah, I see that on a lot of model forums when I'm like, I wonder how did he get that paint pattern? What's his technique? Go down to the comments and it's like, you're a fuck, or just something unrelated, or a vigorous. What's the World War II model? Oh yeah, the swastika or not the swastika. About putting swastikas on models. I guess in Europe that's like a big deal. Like some places you can't put swastikas on a model.
Oh yeah. In Germany, you can't have swastikas in video games, even if it's error appropriate or not. It's immediately like banned if it has swastikas in it.
Well, I thought the whole get around for like German World War II models, you just slap the Iron Cross
Yeah,
on
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's
not
what it becomes. But
Yeah,
the purists will have pictures. They'll have books full of pictures of stuff from that time. It's like, no, see, it had the swastika on it, and then the other guy will be like, we can't put swastikas on things. Like, what about your freedom of speech? It's like, this is Europe. That doesn't exist here. It's implied, but
Or they'll just use the Nazi eagle in place of the swastika.
and I just wanted to learn how they did a rusting paint technique.
Have you done any of the hairspray chipping stuff at all yet?
I did that once. I did hairspray once, and I did salt. But I found I like the Vallejo chipping medium better with a toothbrush.
Oh, okay.
See, I like speckled rust, not like cake, like layer rust where the metal's flaking apart. Because a lot of my stuff is like, like speckled rust. And then if I want that caking rust, I have another Vallejo called Texture Effects that I just paint on, and it dries like a clay, and it kind of separates. But yeah, I've done the hairspray thing a couple of times. It's good. I mean, it does. That hairspray thing creates an excellent, like, sun blasted paint effect, where it really looks like, oh yeah, this paint just got eaten away by the sun and the underlying metal's rusting now. That's great for like, it's like a Volkswagen Beetle, but he did a model of like, this was the Beetle I had in the 90s. It just all sun blasted, rusted. That actually looks like that. The picture of the
We had a rusted beetle at some point.
Yeah, we did. I think everyone did.
No, because we finally got Vallejo in the shop this week, so I bought one thing of air paint to use just as brush, because it's nice to brush on. It's already thinned down and everything. But I haven't bought any of the other stuff yet, so I was just kind of wondering how it was, or how's the chipping medium work. I guess you just put it on when you're applying the paint, and then you just kind of.
Well, the way I do it, for the kind of rust I'm wanting to do, is I'll put a rust paint underneath.
Oh, okay.
And I'll put the medium on, and then I'll put the actual paint I want over that.
Yeah.
And let it dry for like an hour, and then hit it with the brush. It looks more like, flaked.
Yeah.
That's the kind of effect I like. But yeah, Vallejo makes good stuff. AK by MIG is pretty good. Tamiya has, I mean, it's a lot of it's, some of it's water based, some of it's alcohol based. That's about the big difference. There's a lot. Tamiya, all their stuff is alcohol based, which means once the alcohol dries, it's set. It's kind of cool. But I like acrylics, water based stuff. I don't feel like I have to wear a gas mask. And then they have at the model shop, they got lacquer in, straight lacquer paint, which I have never played with. I'm going to need to wait till the summertime when I get out in the garage. Those are nice because they're dry in like 15 minutes. But you actually have to wear a respirator, or I would recommend wearing some kind.
Start powder coating your models.
Yeah, you can do that. Way to do it. Or you can make it look like powder.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think there's actual I don't think you can run an electrical charge through a model. And apply it that way.
Well, there are lead ones. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how good our lead is at conducting electricity, but
I don't know. I've never played with lead.
that's why you're the bright human being you are today.
Yeah, I've never let's grind up this lead and see what happens. Let's atomize this lead and pulverize it and spread it around the house.
I remember there's a trivia from C Lab 2021. I don't even think that's true, but it's talking about how Greece or whatever, they use the lead aqueducts.
Okay.
And it was called plumbing or something like that. So it sounds like plumbing, and that's why the periodical table for lead is PB.
Okay. Could very well be true. I don't know.
Well, because even like it says PB, but I think it's like PLMB or something like that. As far as like the letters underneath of it too.
Okay.
So yeah, it makes sense why that's actually that way.
I mean, lead pipes and stuff are great for preventing shit growing in them, but if you take water from the Flint River and run it through those lead pipes, which has a very high pH value, then you just drink lead, which causes bad stuff to happen.
And that's why they theorized the fall of Rome, I guess, would be attributed to that.
Well, because I know
Or one of those falls.
Brain damage.
Yeah,
from
yeah.
Drinking it's lead tainted water. Yeah.
And there's some with tomatoes in lead, where it's like if they have like a lead plate, and if there was like a tomato on it, it would just like soak up the lead or something, so it'd be poisonous. And that's why you throw tomatoes at people you don't like, is like you're just trying to give them lead poisoning.
Oh, okay. That might be true. I know tomatoes can do weird shit because they're so acidic. I know you can do weird stuff with them, but I have not heard that one. Of course, I've never seen a lead plate either. So.
No, because
It's very malleable and it's easy to form into things. So that's probably why they had no idea what it was doing to you. It's like, oh, we can, because I mean,
Our friends, heavy metals.
because that's like lead's right next to gold, so that's like, well, gold has like a lot of elements that are similar to lead.
Yeah.
But gold doesn't kill. Well, maybe it can. I don't know. We eat gold, so who the fuck knows?
Gold's rarer and it wasn't used in as much stuff, so I don't know. I know that how different is lead and gold? It's not that different.
It's the next one on the periodic table. It has like one more electron.
Yeah, it's very subtle.
But like that can. But yeah, it's the thing with chemistry or atoms or whatever. Like one more electron vastly changes the entire property of it.
Oh, well, yeah, it's like when the one scientist, I forget which podcast I was listening to, about how humans and chimpanzees, it's like 98% of the DNA is the same. It's like, yeah, but that 2% makes a huge difference. Your brain is 100 times more complicated than a chimpanzee's. Your speech center alone is like 4 times the size of a chimp's. And so, yeah, those little differences.
it's also
We'll find out once CRISPR becomes mainstream. Once people start editing their DNA, it's like, well, that changes why we call him Ed the Tumor. He wanted a horn like a narwhal, but instead he just created a giant tumor.
Well, I know now that everybody's up in arms about new regulations about like, not filtering like mercury and other chemicals out of industrial exhaust and stuff like that. So it'll be mercury raining down from the sky and getting into the water system and in the air and shit like that now.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Oh, they play in that acceptable limits game where it's like, wow, the numbers before were way too low. You can breathe in a lot more mercury.
Well, it's not so much acceptable limits. They're doing away with like, the scrubbers on smokestacks for like industrial pollution and stuff like that.
Okay.
They're like limiting some of the filters on it, so you don't need to have those filters anymore for like mercury. coming
Yeah,
out from
sounds
smoke.
like a wonderful. Like, why did I quit smoking? I don't know. I mean, I'm about a mile from where I work is about probably less than a mile from Zug Island. So, God knows what the hell we're being exposed to. That's I don't know if you guys. I think I've talked about Zug Island before.
No, is that like the island near 3 Mile Island?
No. Zug Island is it's called Detroit's Area 51 because it's a U.S. It's an artificial island. It got its name because the guy who owned it was named Zug, and at one time they had the largest blast furnace in the world there. It's still there. They just refired it 4 years ago. But basically, Zug Island is a man-made island in the middle of the Detroit River between Detroit and Canada, and they you can't get to it. It's got to take like a boat or something. But it's owned by U.S. Steel, and it's all the secret alloys that the government needs for aircraft, submarines. All that specialized shit is made on Zug Island because it's controlled access. You can't get out there. That's the one that was on that Joe Rogan sci-fi show. They were talking about the Zug Island hum because it was making people sick in Canada because it was infrasound. But they could never exactly figure out what it was. And when you go petition to like, we need to get on Zug Island and see what's going on, like, dudes show up with guns like, no, you're not coming here. our secret place. But there's a lot of people around here that work out there, and they say, oh, it's a hellhole. There's nothing secret out there except the kind of metals they're making. Because like a lot of things for stealth planes and submarines are made out there, and it has been that way for a while. So, but yeah, God knows what we're breathing in there. Because I mean, where I work, there's giant stacks that just shoot blue fire out of them.
Your organs can't be read on radar.
Well, my watch has like an air quality alert, and whenever I'm here or driving around or anything, it's always like air quality good, air quality excellent. When I'm at work, I'll look down and it'll be in the red. It'll be when it's really hot, it'll be like air quality warning. It's because of that huge industrial area I work in. And some days when I go into work, it smells like burnt matches, like somebody struck a bunch of matches. And I ask around, like, what is that weird smell or whatever? It's like, oh, they're something at the stack over at the steel mill. They have to burn a bunch of shit out of it occasionally. It's like, wonderful to read.
Excuse me.
But now there'll be even more mercury in the air. Oh, and also there's a big Kier McGee oil refinery where I... And those places have been there a long, long, long time. I mean, like our grandparents would have been young children when a lot of those places were open. So. God knows how polluted it is, but there's weird eagles and hawks flying around them. There's a lot of foxes around there that are actually rare in the wild, but for some reason they thrive in these areas.
We absorb all the good radiation that makes us superheroes.
Well, because people don't live around those places. Really.
Okay.
So that's why there's a bunch of weird wild, like there's all kinds of weird wild animals that run around the Rouge complex. And it's like, yeah, because people don't live here. They just work here and they work in these buildings and then they leave. They're not hanging around like shooting at these things or anything. So, but yeah. So that's good to know that there's that's going on. It's not surprising. Nothing's getting cheaper for all this deregulation. Wasn't that the promise? That everything was going to be cheap and everything, America was going to be...
No, because, business is the same thing with... I liken it to, like, what was it, 4 or 5 years ago when gas, like, really skyrocketed into the stratosphere, and it was, like, $3 or over $3 a gallon everywhere and $4 or $5 in metropolitan areas because everybody upped their shipping cost and groceries went sky high and everything else because it was, just gas is so high. That's why we're making prices go higher and higher. It has nothing to do with anything else.
Yeah.
And then gas prices shot back down dramatically and then they didn't lower the prices back down.
Yeah, of course.
It's
fixed level. Well, we're still making up for those high gas prices 4 years ago.
I just liken it to that. They just want the money. They just that's a convenient excuse. It's not anything more than that.
No.
Because any company worth its salt that's actually been around for as long as most of these big ass companies have, like, they've adjusted for that shit a long time ago. They didn't fucking just magically like, oh no, look, we need to come up with more money now. We're such bad people at business.
Well, it depends. It's one of those things where if it's a publicly traded company where like people are in charge, they're like legally obligated to make the company more money.
Yeah.
So if getting things deregulated means like, oh, we don't have to spend as much money on it, you don't pass on that savings to the consumer. You pass on the money to the people holding stock, the stock owner.
Yeah. Yep.
But 1% of the population in America owns 50% of the stock. It's like, how does that work?
It wasn't meant to be that way.
Yeah, it's the way it's always worked. It always starts off as one. I'm sure serfdom seemed like a good idea when it started. But as it ended, yeah, it was...
There's some Netflix show where it's like 15 minutes long that's like how stuff works, and there's I haven't watched it yet, but I heard a summary of it, so now what I'm saying is probably all bullshit, but it was talking about how the stock market was originally meant for common people to own part in a business.
Yeah.
Rather than just like, so like, you know, because then all the power goes to rich people because they can actually afford to like buy businesses and shit. It's like, here, you can gather together. It's like communism, but the stock market. But then that, you know, that all flipped around.
Well, and then it became a way for companies to raise capital based on the value of their company. And then they, of course, immediately started misstating the value of their company. So they more and more money. And then and then I forget.
And they keep finding clever and clever ways to basically embezzle money and make up money where it doesn't exist. And then every 10 years, we all pay for it. And then they say they're sorry, and then they're back in charge a few years later, and then the cycle happens again. It's just
immediately.
It's a fun magic trick.
Yeah. Well, that's why accounting classes are so interesting to behold. Just like the ways you count money and the way you do math is fucking weird. And it's like you're always taught in elementary school that it's like, okay, 2 + 2 = 4, but accounting is more like, okay, 2 + 8 - $1 billion = 10. And it was like, how does that?
You go to the offshore bank, and then you add 10% because of the taxes you're not paying.
Actually, in accounting, isn't like basically everything equals 0 because everything's balanced by credits and debits, and they all have to equal the same thing eventually.
Well, it just depends on what accounting you're looking at. If you're looking at receivables, if you're looking at payables, or whatever. I mean,
well, it's like they even like depreciation. So like you have like a truck and it depreciates value over time, and the truck still has cost the same thing the whole time. Yeah. It's just that like now the credit the actual truck is worth goes down while the debit, which is like the depreciating value, goes up.
Yeah, so I mean, your depreciation table for, let's say you get a new drill press and it's $80,000. And so you, instead of doing it by year, you would do it by the amount of jobs it does. So you allot 10,000 jobs a year to it. So every job it does, it goes down in value. So yes, the money you owe on it goes down, so your liability goes down, but then over time the revenue on it, or what you know, it's basically the longer you own that machine and make it work for you, the more money you gain.
Yeah.
So that's why all these companies keep around, like me, or in my company, we have manual lathes that were used during World War II, and those are our manual lathes. They don't work for shit. We can barely make anything on them, but we won't replace them. And it's just like, nope, we've depreciated the shit out of them, and they don't cost us anything, and they make us money.
Man, that's way different than where it is a lot of places. They're just like, what is that? It's taking up space. Fucking throw it away. It's like, but it's still useful. We don't care.
Oh, we care where I work.
It's all that, what is it? That Six Sigma shit?
Yeah.
Or have they called that something else by now?
Last I heard it was Six Sigma.
Okay.
That stuck for a while because it was QS 9000, then it was ISO 14001. Now it's Six Sigma. I mean, it's different, but it's all the same shit. They don't. They used to have us involved in all that. Now they don't give a shit about what the workers, because they're just going to do whatever they want to. So it's like, oh, okay.
Well, it's just something where, I mean, you and me, like, we own an asset, say a house. It's like, I wish I could just let it sit and deteriorate and just get worse and worse and it'd be worth more. But unfortunately, that's just not the way it works.
That only works for landlords.
Yeah. But unfortunately, I mean, it's something where, yeah, I don't know why. I know why companies do it, because they don't want. Apparently, as a company now, you can't have a negative year or quarter or week or whatever.
Oh no, because they'll get fired.
Yeah, it always has to be positive. Apparently,
well, no, you can't just make money. You have to improve over the previous year.
Oh, I know,
which
but
is
it's just
impossible.
Like, it breaks every common law sense of the economy anybody's ever been taught.
Unless your business is accumulating every other business each year until you are the omni business, that is impossible.
No, I know, but it's...
Your charter as a corporation is to have all the money in the world. And it's like, well, charter dissolved.
It's never a bad question to ask how you could do things better, but it's always a bad question to ask is like, why did you have to fail? It's like, well, because sometimes people fail. Things fail. It's not all roses and success stories every fucking 5 minutes.
I like the Scott Adams thing about business. It's called failing up. It's where you fail at something over and over and over again, but somehow you put a spin on it. It was talking about like IBM IBM in the 90s did a lot of weird shit, and they basically lost a ton of money, like things they should never have lost money at, like selling servers to the government or just like constant fixed things like that. It's like a rock solid business model, and their CEOs and some of their people that ran the company, they managed just to spin it as, oh, we failed up. You know, it's why, because they essentially would sell all these things to the government and they would be obsolete. Then they would develop something new, and then they knew the government was going to sue them because they sold them a bunch of obsolete shit. So then they'd replace it with something new and lose a fuck ton of money, but say, we learned from that. We've made better stuff. I mean, you've heard of like Deep Blue and all those like supercomputers they had back then.
Yeah.
That was all in that era of they would take all that money that they made, spend it, and then sell it back to the government, but somehow still be a loss. But like, we're developing. So that's why you don't hear about that shit anymore, because they changed their business model around. I mean, it's way more complicated than what I'm saying, but the bottom line is, it's like, oh, these people, they were just a bunch of magic. There's a bunch of magic talk about, well, we're going to do this and that. We're really going to accomplish nothing.
Well, it's just, even if a business fails now, everyone might get fired, but they all get millions of dollars in golden parachutes that just pop out of their asses or whatever. It's like, if you or me get fired, we just get, hey, we might get unemployment if we're lucky.
Yeah, well, fighting for that, like fucking dogs in a pit for the last scrap of meat. We might get that.
But if we're high enough up the food chain and we fail miserably and tank the company until it almost dies,
we can live well for the rest of our lives.
The way it was explained to me once was, it's like, well, we take risks. You know, we don't have some big organization kind of underlying union in my case, or in a lot of people's cases, that it's like you just show up and do your job, and if anything goes wrong, people protect you, but we take risks. It's like, yeah, you certainly do. You fuck everything up and expect me to lose benefits as a result of it. Yeah, you're a risk taker. It's like, did you really think the Aztec was going to be the vehicle that saved the world? Or it's like, is that taking a risk? Or in 2007 and 2008, when gas was getting close to $5 a gallon, did you think we needed a new expedition? It's like, okay, that's taking risks and looking at the market. I'm just cynical. I don't understand. Nathan, you don't understand.
no, it's just, yes, technically you're not punished for the company's screw-ups, but at the same time, you're making the company work just as much as everybody else that works there. So, I mean, it's
yeah,
stupid.
I don't know, like, if those golden parachutes are negotiated beforehand, like that's their, because the reason they get paid so much is that they're trying to get the best people they possibly can, presumably, to take the job. So it's like, oh, here's a ton of money just to take the job. So I'm not sure if that stuff's negotiated beforehand or afterwards.
Well, I think it's part of their contract, but
Yeah.
at the same time, that shouldn't be. It's like if that's part of their
Well,
contract.
I mean, yeah, because that's the way you could get the best guy. It's like, no matter what, you're getting money. If you're good at your job or you suck at the job, it's like, oh, it's like there's no incentive to do the job.
No, I know, because it's like, well, either
There's
way,
only
I get
incentive to take the job, not do the job.
It's like, yes, don't get me wrong. A lot of people in like the upper management situations, that's a lot of stress, a lot of long hours, and a lot of being, on 24/7, 365 supposedly. But at the same time, they get compensated well enough to begin with, not to get $20 million for failing upwards all the time. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
I don't begrudge those people if they're a success. I mean, I know it's a lot of work, and I have no verve and drive to, because like the business I work in, it's like I think cars are cool. I think engineers and robots do amazing things. I don't really want to know a lot of, I don't want to know, like, I wouldn't want to be in charge of making decisions in those places. It's like I just want to go home at the end of my shift. It's like, oh, we're having a meeting. Yeah, fuck you. I'm going home. I'm gonna eat spaghetti. What are you talking about? So yeah, I can appreciate that those guys spend way too much time at work, but they also love it. But I don't. So good for you. But when they fail spectacularly, like in the face of such obvious information, that's when I get frustrated with them. It's like, wait a minute, you were supposed to be the watcher on the wall here. What were you thinking? Well, you don't understand. It's like, yeah, I do. You fucked up. I understand that. We can all see that. But, I mean, I think, yeah, and a lot of people. A lot of hard work. It's a lot of hard work for everyone. So.
My affluenza created the problem.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like too with GM shuttering all their plants like what, a month ago now, or maybe slightly more than that. Yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of that stuff has been going on for a while now. Not because, I mean, this is a preemptive measure on their part based upon switching to SUVs and getting rid of small cars and stuff like that because they're looking towards their future. But fine. But this is also preemptively making the shareholders more money because their profits look better because they got rid of a shit ton of payroll and overhead by ditching all these plants and expenditures they had to take care of otherwise.
Well, see, the thing with GM and Chrysler that's kind of, again, this is when you go into like government reorganization and bankruptcy. See, Ford, the last car plant that they made in North America was the one I left because we were laid off all the time. That was it. They didn't make cars anywhere else but there. They had closed all or retooled or moved all their car making operations 10, 12 years ago, except for that one. And the place in Chicago, which makes police cars and SUVs now. But see, GM was so heavily leveraged into cars because when they went into bankruptcy, they couldn't close all those plants back then because everyone was giving them all this money, the federal government, the state, everyone, and they didn't want those plants closed. So this was like a 10-year odyssey for them getting rid of these plants. And you're going to hear, there's going to be a lot more of this to come, unfortunately. I mean, like Toyota is about to drop a bomb on a bunch of people, I've heard, because they're just not selling cars either. So
Well, even Tesla fired up like 10% of its staff just to appease the shareholders, and that company's built on just burning money for like eventually getting a better car.
There will be profits someday.
Yeah.
Well, because all Toyota's U.S. stuff is all based in Alabama, isn't it? Or Mississippi and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's usually in the South. Yeah.
And Ohio. Ohio's the one that's going to get hit the worst because that's where they make all the Camrys. Giant Camry plant in Ohio.
But yeah, like every truck is made in America, right? Like even if it's a foreign truck, it's made in America.
Yeah, I believe so.
Because like all Toyota trucks are made in like Alabama or Indiana or some shit. Texas? Okay. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. It's right near the customer base. We were going to put a truck plant in Texas at one time, but we realized our supply chain would be stretched so far doing that. It's like, and plus it gets hotter than fucking Texas. They make a lot of the heavy duty GMCs and the big SUVs at a plant in Amarillo, and it's a UAW plant. And we had a newsletter once, and they were talking about heat stress. And like in Michigan, you have some 90, 95 degree days. Sometimes you have a week of a heat wave where it's 90 plus degrees. These guys were talking like, hey, well, it's 101 degrees at the Escalade plant. It's like, oh my God, I couldn't imagine. Those places are not air conditioned. And it's like, my God, I couldn't imagine building cars in 100 plus degree heat. Drink lots of water. And I don't know if it's a dry heat in Texas or not. I don't know where Amarillo is.
I think Texas is one of those states where it gets both the dry and the humid.
Yeah, well, it's so big. It's like, I imagine the weather probably changes the more you get closer to the water.
Gulf, yeah. So, yeah.
Or you could be like, there's the first like actual like car commercial, not truck or SUV commercial I've seen in a while is on YouTube. There's a bunch of people with like colorful flags and streamers jumping around. And it's like, the Honda Accord's a great car. And then it's like, buy a Honda Accord. And it's like,
oh God, please buy a Honda Accord.
It's like, yes.
There'll be a lot of ritual suicide in Japan if you don't buy a Honda Accord.
It's like, they're great cars. Oh yeah, it was the Civic too, because they're bunched together. Because the Civic's well known. It's just like the Toyota Camry or the Ford Taurus and stuff like that. It's a very... Oh wait, no, the Civic's the smaller one out of the two, isn't it?
It's like the Camry, okay.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's probably one of the most iconic, like, everybody knows what a Honda Civic is versus a Honda Accord. So
Well, the Accord's just like it's like a Fusion, or it's like the bigger, their mid-size car. Their mid-size sedan.
So good, too. Like, the Toyota Camry was like the gold standard of this is how you make a car reliable and last forever. And now they're all just fucking riddled with problems because they've had to modernize. Because it used to be there were always a few staple cars. It's like, this is the best. This car will last you 20 years. That doesn't exist anymore. They all have all kinds of problems. Doesn't matter who makes them. Just riddled with trouble.
Well, because everybody knows that you don't make a lot of money year after year and get better year after year in your income sheet if you just sell somebody something once and then 10 years later they buy it again. You have to make sure that breaks down every 5 months so they can spend more money.
Well, it's illegal to have planned obsolescence, but that's debatable among lawyers. So.
Well, see what the Japanese did. Like, let's take the Camry for instance, and that's antecedent the Corolla, which was the smaller version, I think. They made the same car for 25 years. They made incremental improvements, but they essentially made the same vehicle. The reason American trucks are so good is it's the same vehicle. That, or like in the case of Ford, they'll throw almost half the company's value into R&D to get it right if they are going to make a change because it's their staple product.
Mm-hmm.
But when all these companies, like every year, we need a new engine, we need a new transmission, we're going to add 3 new gears, and this is going to have like the valves timing is going to change to improve fuel economy. When they started throwing all this wild stuff in, they just it got inconsistent, and it just became the same quality problems that the American car makers were having, because American car makers would change their cars around like every 3 years. It's like, this one has a new engine. This one, I mean,
wouldn't you say like every 3 to 5 years it was like a ground up platform change for the car, and then for Toyota, it's like they just add a new bumper and grill, and it's like it's a new car, and then it's still like 5 more years of making the same car.
Yep, they were very. That's why their products were so good. It's not like they understood metallurgy or automotive engineering better than us or the Germans. They just understood consistency. It's like, if we consistently start with something solid and build on it, it's going to be better by the end. But then the market just and that's not the car companies entirely their fault. It's also the customers. It's like, well, the iPhone 3 is just a piece of shit. Look at the iPhone 5, and then everyone started seeing everything like that. It's like, oh, I want a new car. I want a new house. I want everything. The next year's model has to be 100% better than the previous year's, which is totally unrealistic. but it's kind of the mode people got because it's a way to hype up sales. Everyone gets excited, and now you're in a world of half finished products. I mean, not everything, not all the times. There's still a lot of good stuff out there, but yeah, a lot of those Japanese car makers really fell off sharply starting about 2010. It's like, oh, they're having the same problems we are. What's going on? It's like, they're coming out with something new every 2 years. It's like, why can't you make the same engine for 20 years? Why, just make incremental, not the same engine, but make incremental improvements. It's like, yeah, why does, like, it's like Chevrolet was notorious for, it's like 1 year we've got this kind of 3-liter engine, that's going to be our staple engine, and then the next year it's a 3.5 liter, totally different engine, totally different everything. It's like, why are we doing that? We're not selling the car for $10,000 more. It doesn't fly, but it's new. It has more power.
So what you're saying is the car companies are run like how I keep my wife interested in my penis. Like, look, now the hair is shaved into a V. It has lights on it now. I can do whistles with it.
Well,
It's like,
if they just shaved the hair, put lights on it, but it was still the same core piece, it would be fine. But it's like when you go from, we got to have this to like, oh, now I've got 2 penises. It's the same body. That's when it becomes a problem.
no, because I know when I bought my Subaru Crosstrek 17, Subaru is touting their global platform change, which I'm assuming is basically what the frame of the car is built on, is what I understood platform to mean. Or what do they say? When somebody says platform, is that not the frame of the car, or is that something else?
Well, it could be you're going from like S body to K body. It could be whole new engine, transmission, everything set up.
Yeah. Well, because I have a Subaru like repair book,
Yeah.
and it's super fucking weird. Because every other repair book I've ever bought, it's like, here's the car you own.
Yeah.
But the way Subaru makes cars is even more weird. Is that basically everything is interchangeable between all platforms of cars? Like either like every car has the same engine, it just looks different, or it all has the same platform. It's kind of like the way the European cheap airlines, how they do thing, where it's like, if we all just have the same, where they just bought a ton of one fucking plane,
Yeah.
and so it's cheaper to train pilots because they just have to learn how to fly one plane, and it's cheaper to train mechanics because they just have to know how to fix one thing.
Yeah.
So basically, like when the engines and transmission is all the same across cars, it's easier for them to like repair shit because they're not thrown for a loop every car that comes in.
Well, I mean, that makes sense.
But yeah, I don't know. I like someone explained to me about Honda, which they're kind of weird. It's like they're not necessarily a car maker. That's just what you know them for. They're really just an engine maker, because they make lawnmowers and fucking Sea-Doo. Well, like, what do you call this? Watercrafts.
Well, yeah, they make motorcycles, watercraft, lawnmowers. Oh God, that's something else.
Yeah, anything with engine in it, Honda makes it.
Yep.
They make a terrible F1 car.
I've seen their F1 car. I didn't know it was terrible.
Their engine sucks.
Oh.
I'm not sure. It might be different this season, but last time I knew, the Honda engines were incredibly underpowered because they switched to it's a hybrid system now.
Yeah.
So it's a part electric motor, part I think it's a V6 because they used to have bigger engine than them. So I believe like why Mercedes is the best is they figure out a way to like basically recycle the exhaust almost like a Russian rocket engine.
Oh, okay.
To improve the performance on the car. Because not everybody has the same engine, but they all have the same specs. So it's like how you put things on the engine, you can change. So there's something the Mercedes did with the engine exhaust that actually like made the car more powerful or some shit. I can't remember.
Oh, they're just like a reburner.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's where they put the exhaust in the engine system that like changed it.
Oh, okay. Sounds like something cool.
There's a lot of the tech side of F1 is pretty interesting because all that shit is crazy because it's basically rocket ships on the ground because it's way too much money and technology thrown at something that's never going to be used.
Yeah, this isn't going to have like practical applications later down the line. Or,
I mean, it might, but not for like 20 years.
Well, I actually,
isn't that where anti-lock braking came from?
Probably.
One.
well, F1 racing I actually respect because they actually don't race in a fucking circle all goddamn day long.
I mean, that's a different kind of thing.
Well, I mean, it's just NASCAR has its own innovations and it's fine, but like F1 is like a racing that I actually would watch.
Yeah.
It seems.
Well, yeah, because I don't know how long they are, but there is a limit because they don't do gas refills in F1.
Yeah.
So you have one tank of engine, and that was for safety reasons.
Oh.
Because so many people got set on fire from refilling the car.
Nothing like pouring 11 gallons of high test fuel, with a white hot exhaust pipe right next to it.
Well, yeah, while the engine's running. So yeah, they made that illegal, so no more refueling. So it's the whole race is done on one gas tank.
Yeah, and I think that's one. It's
So like, there's some races like it's a 50-lap race, which I don't know what that equates to hours wise, but yeah, but
well, I mean, either way, it's still NASCAR is like what usually like a couple hundred laps.
Daytona 500,
Oh yeah.
500 laps.
Yeah, that's like a whole fucking day of they're going around in a circle again, Bob.
But I mean, at that point, that's more about the because the cars are supposed to be, more or less even in NASCAR. It's more about the driver's ability and less about the car's technology.
Well, no, I know they have like different drivers are better than others. There is an actual skill to it, but it's just like I couldn't watch. It's like me watching golf. I couldn't watch the same repeatable action done over and over again all day long with advertisements thrown at me.
Yeah, but that just depends how much like you know about it and like what you see as an average viewer and what everybody else sees. It's going to be completely different. It's like I could go out there and hit a ball on the ground. Who the fuck cares? But somebody else is seeing it's like, oh, it's windy and the reed on the grass and it's all that shit. But so
Yeah, that's how deep you want to go.
yeah. That's why I'm interested about like wrestling, because I don't like, because like from an average viewer, like this has to be completely ridiculous. But I'll tell you things like, oh, here's what's actually going on.
Oh.
And I don't know if that makes it more interesting for you or less interesting.
Well, they're changing topic, but not meaning to change topic. Because when you brought that up, it reminded me. Because if you guys had seen any of the new Punisher season, I was gonna tell you why he actually like broke his hand in the fucking first episode, like doing the stunt in the fucking bathroom in the first episode of the second season.
Oh,
because he has a cast on his fucking arm for like 3 or 4 episodes, and then he finally breaks it off, and because like his hand's not actually broken in the season till like episode 3.
Oh, this is a real thing. It's the NC. It's like it's within the fiction of the show.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it's just like he legitimately broke his hand, and then he he dislocated his hand and sprained his wrist and shit at the same time. Because he kept going over the stunt sequence, and he was like, well, I punched this guy really hard, and me being a boxer, whatever, like I knew I broke my hand, but I didn't say anything. And the next scene, it was supposed to be I grab his head with my right hand and slam it into the sink as hard as I can. And then I was kind of like, can we try it from the left hand and just see how it looks from there? And they're like, no, why are you being weird? Just man up, do it. And he's like, oh, okay. And so the guy's head lands in his hand, and then he's just like, he's like slams it. He's like, I couldn't feel my hand after that.
So the actor.
Yeah, the actor legitimately broke his hand
okay.
and fucked it up, and it kept going and didn't say anything. Because then he was like, well, the next scene, I'm supposed to like go to the dance floor in the bar and throw a bar stool at a guy with an automatic rifle with my right hand, but I'm like, well, can we try it from the left hand and see how it looks? And they're like, man up, quit being a pussy. And he's like, well, okay. He's like, I should have said something. It was my fault. But then he was like, instead of me just picking it up and throwing it straight, I just like, wah, and like hit the stunt coordinator in the leg. So it should have been a scene of nothing but silence and that thing hitting a pad, but instead it was a man screaming at the end because I hit him in the fucking leg with the stool. Oh, yeah.
Stunt work. Well, at least he's doing his own stunts.
Yeah, I didn't know he did his own stunts until...
Or maybe he does some of them.
No, he does all of them.
Oh, he does all? Okay.
Yeah. He said he wants everybody to see Frank Castle during all scenes, not just, like I'm assuming that the guy that played Iron Fist, I don't know if he'll continue to play Iron Fist in anything.
Probably not.
Had a stunt double.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, because it's not like he's.
I don't think he can do all those handsprings and stuff, even though there is 30 cuts in one punch. But
30 cut punch. That sounds like a really intimidating move, but
it's like, no, he's just a terrible stunt man.
It's like the 12 cut jump. It's like the 15 cut Liam Neeson fence jump.
Yeah.
And Taken 3. It's like, Nathan, next we're gonna cut you like opening a door like 9 times, make it look action.
Close up on the hand, close up on the door. The door swinging open, wide shot. Back to close up. Jesus, how boring was this before you cut it up? Maybe just cut the whole fucking scene out of the movie.
Did you guys see the fucking joke video for like how skate videos are made?
No.
It's like fucking, they have a guy like just rolling down next to a guardrail. He's about to do like an ollie over fucking steps. And there's like 3 guys in green screen outfits, like they grab him, make him float, and then land him on the board. But the first time they fuck it up and like he falls off it fakely, then he like smashes the board, like, fuck this, you guys can't do your jobs right, or whatever. And then they do it again, and then they show all the behind the scenes magic of making it come together with CGI and editing and stuff, and then they show the completed actual video, which is a guy doing the trick in real life. And it was like, it takes a lot to make a skate video. It's kind of funny.
I remember when Mike Rowe was doing the guy who does Dirty Jobs.
Yeah.
The guys on YouTube, Dude Perfect guys.
Oh.
That do the extreme sports, like, and they were doing something where they had they were in a football stadium. They had a basketball goal set up at the bottom of it, and they were at the top. They were trying to make a basket from the top of this by just throwing the balls to the basket. And he said, it took hours, and by the time they were done, he was like, I was tired. We threw a lot of fucking basketballs down there, and they have outtakes from those guys trying to do stuff. And I mean, sometimes they get so close in the first couple takes, it's like, wow, that's crazy. And then, but yeah, sometimes they're doing that shit for a long time. Like they have to change the angle of the camera because the sun's going down.
Is that the one where they figured out they had to spin the ball because the way the air was like redirecting the ball?
Yeah. It was because it was in the air so long. It was losing its flight care was just hooking really bad unless you spun it. But yeah, I've watched a few of their videos. I mean, some of it's funny.
I don't know, like Dude Perfect's like one of those ones I almost intentionally avoid on YouTube because it's one of those that have like 80 million subscribers. And it's just dudes doing stupid shit. And it's one of those where you feel like I could do that if I took forever to do that. It's like, no, I couldn't. But anyway, it's like these guys don't deserve my.
Well, have you seen their new setup now?
No, I don't watch this. I don't watch the channel.
Like what basically looks like a fucking old like 20 or 30,000 square foot warehouse they own. And they have like they have like a million fucking vehicles and like everything's set up like different environments inside the whole fucking thing. Because it used to be they had like a little office space. Yeah. And they would just kind of roll out of there and do shit in there occasionally. But now it's like, wow, how much fucking ad revenue you pulling in to clear like a fucking 30,000 square foot warehouse?
They're making millions of dollars.
No, I know, but it's just like, wow, okay. I mean, some of their shit though is, I get more annoyed by like every fucking video. I know they're supposed to be positive and encouraging. Like every video is like horrible music and horror, and like it takes forever and not even that interesting stunts for some of the shit they do. And it's just, yeah, just like all their Nerf videos are kind of like, well, that would be cool if I was 16. That'd be about it.
Oh, I mean, that's pretty much the YouTube audience.
No, I know.
We're all the young people that aren't watching TV. They're on YouTube. Watching PewDiePie and Dude Perfect.
Yeah. But I thought it was interesting. I mean, it's the ways to make money.
There's one cool, I can't remember the guy's name, but he did a lot of interesting skate tricks that I'd never seen before. There was one where it was like a spiral staircase. And you know those like plastic dividers? They're like road dividers.
Yeah.
So he jumps. So he puts that on the spiral staircase, like just like sitting on the things, like ready to slide down it. And he goes and does a board slide, but like stops himself on the divider, and then the divider continues down in a spiral down the spiral staircase, and then he jumps off and does like a kickflip as it gets to the bottom of the spiral staircase. It's like, that was pretty fucking cool.
I don't want to know how many times he practiced that stuff.
Oh yeah, he probably died a couple times while doing that.
Yeah,
Got-
it probably didn't happen though. Or probably wasn't a first take one.
Got his credit card checked, or how do they say? Yeah, got his credit card checked when you get your fucking sacked. Just drop down and hit your ass or sack on the whatever thing.
There is a YouTube channel you turned me on to that I'm subscribed to. I can't believe how prodigious. It's one of the gun channels. And that guy, Forgotten Weapons,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that guy is prodigious. Like, he's putting up 5 videos a week sometimes.
Oh, he puts up a video every day.
That's, yeah, some of it's like, I'm impressed with his work ethic.
I mean, it's sometimes they're, like 10-minute videos. Sometimes they're like an hour.
Yeah.
But because there's what, like, wherever he gets to, like, because there's that one, he's like, he's released it over like the past 3 months, but there was a H&K, they call it the Gray Room, and it's like basically the entire history of H&K.
Yeah.
And so he was there for like a day or something, and he got to look at all these guns, and that's been like the past like 2 months of videos has been that one visit to the Gray Room.
I'll have to watch that because I actually like H&K guns a lot.
Oh, this
yeah.
guy does a good job. He's got history involved.
Yeah,
in it.
it's a lot of history.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of his ones about certain weapons, but I haven't seen a lot of his videos.
Because a lot of his videos are about peculiar and interesting firearms that didn't necessarily make it, like they weren't popular.
Yeah.
But then they led on to other things that did become popular.
Yeah, I think one of the main ones I saw was like a variation of like one of the first Uzis or whatever.
Yeah.
And then there was another one for, oh fuck, it was like a Sten gun or a Browning type gun he was covering. And I think the other one was like the French Resistance like gun they dropped from like fucking parachutes. It was like a one-shot non-reloadable fucking pistol.
Yeah.
That they just like, here, fight the Nazis with this. It's like, okay.
I've actually seen one of those in real life. I actually held one years ago. Somebody had one. They look like a construction tool. I mean, you can put a 45 shell in it, but it's like, I wouldn't want to shoot a 45 out of that. It looks like it'd cut your hands off.
One of the interesting ones I saw recently is that it was a knockoff, I believe, of an Austrian gun, or no, a French. It was around 1900s, and it was a French semi-auto pistol, and it was a Spanish, not necessarily a knockoff, but a knockoff.
Yeah.
Because the weird thing about, at least then, Spanish patent law is that, so if you had a patent on some sort of gun,
Mm-hmm.
if you did not have a plant that made those things inside of Spain, then your patent was not valid in Spain.
Oh, okay.
So then if there was a company that worked outside of Spain, you could just steal their patent stuff, make a knockoff, and sell it legally. So that I think
They still do that.
I called it the Lemaire, but they did. So it was a knockoff of like a French semi-auto pistol that they actually made an improvement on, because the original design, it was just a magazine well that you put stripper clips in, so that wasn't a detachable magazine. So they actually made a detachable magazine for it, but otherwise it's the same exact pistol.
Oh, okay.
Well, made cheaper and cheaperly.
Yeah, a lot of stamped stuff and
Yeah.
shit like that. I like it when he did the one that was I think it was called the A10, or it was the one. It was a variation of the M14. It had the weird muzzle brake on the front of it. I mean, it looked like something right out of the 50s. Can't think of what it was called, but it was built as it was like something for the police. It was like a riot control gun, but it was essentially an M14 with a weird muzzle brake on it.
Huh.
It's like, that thing looks scary. It looked weird.
Was it meant to have like gas, like tear gas grenades put in this or something like that?
No, it was just made to kill people. But
Oh, okay.
it had a weird think it had a muzzle. I don't know. I'm probably getting this wrong, but I think the weird muzzle brake was there to, because it was almost a short-barreled M14.
Oh, did it still fire the 308
Yes.
or something?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But it was,
So it's compensating for the massive kickback and short barrel.
yes, and it's made to just like fire into crowds. It's America at its best.
This was during a time I didn't think riot. I mean, I guess race riots and stuff like that were bad, but other than that, like I wouldn't think. I mean,
No, the race riots were really bad.
no.
I don't. Yeah, because I was surprised. I remember I heard like how many people died in the Watts riots in California. It was a staggering amount of people. Yeah, I can't find that gun.
I guess I need to do more reading on that because I've just like everything else for like history in American schools. Like they talk about like, oh yes, there was race riots and civil rights movements, and the riots of L.A. and all this, but nobody ever goes into like great detail about any of those things. And like
That, even though I didn't like it, that Nixon land book goes into excessive detail about all that stuff.
Yeah, the Nixon land, you'll learn. That's where I learned about how many people died in the Watts riots. Was that book?
well, it's the thing. The was it Kent State, the protests where like they actually shot a student and killed them.
Yeah.
During like the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
That was like the National Guard opened
Yeah.
fired on.
Like you heard more about that, like the actual like ramifications of that, but not the race riots.
Well,
and
yeah,
stuff
because
like
in that
It's
instance,
like-
a white college student was getting shot.
yeah, I know. Kind of the fucking sad part. There's a whole like page about that, but there's like a slight tiny paragraph about there were race riots in the United States.
Oh, there's that one weird one. I think there's a documentary on YouTube that's like fascinating, where basically, was it in Illinois that something green, where the cops just fucking
Oh,
dropped a
Green-
bomb.
Green. Yeah.
They just fucking
Oh,
dropped
yeah.
a bomb on a fucking like
Housing, government housing
yeah,
project. Yeah.
and killed like basically killed everybody inside. Well, I'm not sure. Like, something illegal happened that wasn't supposed to happen.
Well, essentially, they used an incendiary bomb to start a fire, and then just shot everyone who ran out. Is what I remember happened.
That sounds
Yeah.
like a good idea.
Really make the news. It was like, there was trouble in Chicago. Next. It's like, wait a minute, why are 35 people dead, including women and children? Pay no attention.
It was because they're black. You know.
Yeah,
This
I
is,
mean,
I mean, this is why you find out, like, hey, why, when like, Spike Lee, and it's like, and he gets paranoid, and it's like, I mean, he's rich and successful. Why he's so paranoid? And then there's like this secret black history because we're white, we never know about it. And then like they tell you things like, did that really happen? There was just some exaggerated conspiracy theory shit, and you look it up. Fuck, why don't I know about this?
yeah, this is really weird. Well, it's like the Monday, we got Martin Luther King Day coming up. And a lot of people talk, the big assassinations of the 60s. JFK, supposedly conspiracy, inside job, all these, House Select Committee on Assassinations met in the 70s and published all this paperwork about how, this stuff was kind of weird. Martin Luther King's assassination, that's like, obviously, if it wasn't a conspiracy, this guy was an insanely disciplined, smooth criminal who showed no indication of being that until a year before he killed Martin Luther King. Because this was a guy who ostensibly was an escapee from prison, who was a failed criminal, shot Martin Luther King, and had money to fly to England, which at that time would have cost as much as a small car does now, because airplane tickets were very expensive back then, and had multiple passports and different names. And it's like, James Earl Ray, we caught him. He confessed immediately, sentenced to, he confessed so he didn't get the death penalty. And then in prison, he recanted his, he said, I was forced into it. I was coerced. I didn't have anything to do with it. And then some people in Martin Luther King's family are like, yeah, we don't think James Earl Ray was the only guy involved here. You don't ever, there's no like books written. I mean, there are, but not wide, people don't get exposed.
Oliver Stone didn't make a movie about it.
Yeah. But like all the assassinations of the 60s for the conspiracy crowd, it's like Martin Luther King's assassination is obviously weird, and there are elements of that how an illiterate bank robber who was on escape from prison at the time could acquire lots of money, passports, all kinds of shit. It's like, that makes no sense at all. And you know, and then he bought a gun at a gun store and put it in his name, of course, and it was a rifle, it was a 30-06 hunting rifle, and then hand mounted a sight to the rifle. Did not sight the rifle in, just screwed it on. He couldn't really sight the rifle in where he was at, and then just fired and shot Martin Luther King, killed him, and then fled the country. Like I said, basically an illiterate. I mean, he fit the profile. He was a racist and a criminal and everything else, but it's like, why haven't they made a movie about this?
Well, because
this is the conspiracy right here. This is like, but you know, you won't do it because, and you won't hear about it much in the conspiracy shit that I follow for shits and giggles, because all those guys are right wingers and they don't give a fuck. It's like, you never hear like Alex Jones or someone screaming about Martin Luther King assassination was an obvious inside job. No, you'll never hear it because his audience would be like, why are you talking about this?
Well, because all I ever saw in the history book for Martin Luther King's assassination in 2 history classes, one in high school, one in college, was this is the guy, he shot him on his hotel balcony, Martin Luther King died, and that was it. It happened in Tennessee. That was pretty much the only fucking thing.
I didn't know about any of this until probably 10 years ago. It's like, oh wow, is this true? Wait a minute. And then there's a documentary on the History Channel about all the details of the Martin Luther King assassination, and it's like, oh, this is really just on its surface. They weren't presenting it as a conspiracy theory. They just told the story of James Earl Ray from the time, you know, the year before he assassinated to when he left the country, and then later they didn't really present it as a conspiracy. But even watching it, I was like, oh, this is obviously right here. How did this guy do this?
I remember watching the OJ documentary, and because usually like things get pointed to like the was it the King? What's his name? Got beat up by the cops.
Oh, Rodney King.
Rodney King, that gets pointed to, but then they had something. It's like I never heard of. There was like a you know, it was a Korean grocer like shot like a black kid.
Yeah.
And then, and it was obvious like, okay, this guy just got scared because the kid was black and shot him to death. Something like that happened, and then like, you know, not guilty, and like that's where a lot of fury like in L.A. came from, was from that. Like you never like really heard about it. Like it just gets appropriated as being, oh, it's the Rodney King beating. That's what created a lot of the fervor.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of things about that history and even the current day stuff where it's like, oh, you just don't hear about all this. You think it's it's like, oh, why is everyone so angry? This person obviously is this, but no, there's a whole backstory. It's like when the cop shot the kid in Ferguson, and it's like, why is everyone rioting over that? What that's stupid, you know. It's I mean, yeah, it's upsetting, but it was kind of ambiguous whether he was fighting with the cop or he committed a crime before that. But then when you look at all the things that had happened in Ferguson the 3 years prior to that, it's like, okay, this is why the riots happened. The police were essentially telling people, hey, if you give us a dirty look, we're going to murder you. And it's like, oh, that's why this happened. This didn't just happen because of this one incident. It's not like everyone was having a nice day mowing their lawn. Hi, neighbor, and then some kid gets shot and everyone's out in the street like burning everything. It don't happen that quickly. There's always a backstory. But it doesn't sell, you know, it would take more than 5 minutes on the news to explain that, so it's not even talking about it. Because it doesn't sell ad, you know, or
just gloss over that and get to the talking heads yelling at each other.
Yeah, or everyone's just racist. I don't know what. I never thought this country was as racist as I now believe it is before 2016. I always thought it's like, yeah, there's some asshole, you know, rednecks out there. It's like, oh wait, no, this is a lot more widespread than I ever thought. See, I don't experience racism, so I don't see it. Yeah, this is a lot worse than what anyone believed, or at least what I saw. But yeah, Martin Luther King shooting conspiracy stuff those are like real. That's a real conspiracy, I think now. I have for years, but it's just like, where's the book coming out? Where's the guy who's going to gather all the facts and write the book about it? Hasn't happened yet. Still
What?
waiting.
Well, I mean, that's how long does government or information stay classified? Is it like 50 years or something like that, or at least until stuff becomes public instead of just sealed?
Well, they
Well,
keep moving that bar around. But
I don't, what was any of the Martin Luther King stuff classified?
yeah, the FBI had things.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But the FBI was also sending his wife tapes of people having sex, saying it was him. Yeah, so the FBI, they didn't have clean hands in that, because Herbert Hoover was convinced that King was like a vanguard of some communist underground that's going to overthrow the country. Yeah, I don't know. It's J. Edgar Hoover, he's a weirdo.
Well, I thought they left like phone messages for him too, where they threatened to kill him and shit like
Oh,
that.
yeah, they did all that stuff.
Like,
Terrible shit. Said he had illegitimate kids, and it was awful. It was stuff you couldn't imagine. It doesn't even sound like it's the same country now, where it's like, oh wow, they were just doing that. Huh?
well, just when you talk about like somebody doing all the legwork and getting all this, notes and everything else together and just compiling a narrative and putting it out there for people, there is still skeletal work for that, but a lot of the detail, I mean, paper records are being disposed of at a horrifying rate, or not kept at all, or lost. Computerization has taken over everything, so unless it's been digitized, it's basically probably lost or nobody knows where it is forever. Everybody that's alive to witness it is either dead or very old, might not remember it at this point. And then otherwise everything else is all secondhand information and whatever you can dig up.
The conspiracy worked.
So I'm just saying, is like, how difficult would it be, I guess, to do the legwork on that now, where because it's even like oh god, there was a news story I was reading about the King family this week, and wasn't Martin Luther King's mother like killed as well?
I don't know. I hadn't heard that.
Yeah. She was assassinated like a month later.
Okay, because
I can't remember what that was. There's actually a section for during show notes at the bottom.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm just adding what we're doing because our notes are all wrong because we're not following it.
Oh.
Well, no, I just kind of put that there as a potential guide.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then I have the section down below because as during show notes.
Oh, okay.
Because I can scroll that list down, because what people are seeing right now is just the top of it where it says movies.
Oh, okay.
And television, and I can scroll down, if we went to those places. But
oh, okay.
yeah, because I gotta think the first time we implemented these notes, well, we did it for the best of, but the second time we did it was just us. I felt like the podcast went too quickly. Because we weren't like flying off the handle or whatever the fuck. We just like went down the list and we're fucking in and out in like an hour and a half. Which can be good. But I kind of felt we were missing the just random. It's like, oh, this. But
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how hard the King stuff would be to figure out. Because like if I know about it, it's got to be general information. I'm surprised nobody's made a movie or anything. I mean, they're making movies about all kinds of stuff. I think this would be something worth touching on.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I am surprised too, between the few good documentary makers that are out there that would, possibly want to do this, but also, Spike Lee and other people that would also like to approach this subject or would be in their wheelhouse.
oh yeah, that definitely. Well, because it wasn't. I didn't see that levee when the levees break movie, but didn't they have some conspiracy theory stuff in it about like?
Oh, about the flood in New Orleans?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, it was all. I mean, it was stories about people and what their struggles were. But yeah, there was all kinds of theories all the way through it about how like, oh, they don't really care about us, and
Or like somebody blew up the levees and they didn't just break and stuff like that.
Yeah, there was kind of an overarching theory that this was a giant gentrification thing. It's like they knew this stuff was going to fail, and then they had the perfect alignment of the hurricane, and they're like, yeah, let's sabotage the levees. No one's gonna know because the hurricane's destroying everything. And there was a through line of that. It didn't seem, it wasn't too convincing, but I could understand again when they did the interviews with the people that lived in that area. It's like, yeah, these people would believe anything bad at this point because they've basically been living on the edge of. I mean, that whole city just rife with problems.
Well, I thought another big problem with the flooding in New Orleans is a lot of people didn't evacuate either.
They couldn't.
Oh, they couldn't
They
evacuate.
had no means of evacuation except to walk out of there. I mean, there was a lot of poor people there.
Well, I guess
And some white people holding shotguns at bridges.
yeah, and there was the local bands of helpers showed up to threaten everyone.
Not in my town. Go to Texas.
Yeah,
Swim to Texas.
a lot of that love.
no. I guess I thought when there was something like that where it's evacuation ordered, I thought literally. I mean, yes, you can't make anybody really do anything, but at the same time, I thought at least there'd be some kind of, hey, here's buses to use to get out of town.
You're also talking about a very large city in America that has some of the, well, actually, it is the worst poverty in America, right?
Yeah, it's very close.
So people literally don't have the means to get out of town.
And you had a lot of people living there that had like chronic health conditions and stuff. And if you've got, there were people that died because of lack of insulin days after that. That's why everyone was so hard on like George Bush. It's like, wait a minute, you just didn't even think to prepare for this. It's obvious this is coming. This isn't like this wasn't 9/11 where it was a bolt out of the blue. It's like this hurricane's been coming for a long time, and people don't have any means of evacuation. I mean, I guess if it was like the Upper West Side of Manhattan had to be evacuated, there'd be helicopters. It's not cynical to say that they really didn't care what happened to the poor people in New Orleans.
They'd send that movie, the 2012. They'd send those boats that the Chinese people made.
Yeah.
the arcs.
This arc is for all the fine art and the clothing. This one's for the sports cars, and this one's for the douchebags. I mean, rich people.
Well, remember when Samuel Jackson was hosting Saturday Night Live? And that's when the Titanic was the big movie in like 97. And he was supposedly one of the people on the ship. It was like all the black people, but they were in first class. And they said, oh, yeah, you're next. The lifeboat's next. And they were like taking chandeliers and pianos and putting them in you're next. Just hold on. Yeah, it's very similar to... It's not just comedy. It's there's people that really think that way. But yeah,
I know that's why the new season of Future Man was refreshing. When they're going to Mars, so they're destroying every fucking artifact they have left, like wiping their ass with the Constitution, and like doing a slip and slide on the Dead Sea Scrolls, and like fucking bowling with fucking like the head of or like a Michelangelo statue, and fucking like target practice on like Rembrandt paintings and shit. And it's like,
awesome. It's
like, yeah, you guys are fucking brilliant. It's like, I guess I don't know if anybody's ever seen any of those episodes either.
Oh, I saw the whole season.
Okay.
Very weird season.
I liked it. Overall, it wasn't the same as the first season.
It wasn't as funny, but they actually spent more time like with character development.
Yeah.
And I kind of hated how it ended.
Yeah, but to be honest, it's kind of like you have to set it up for another season.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like you can't just keep doing the first season over and over again, where they just keep trying to fix the
yeah, I know. I understand that, but it's I don't know, like their take on Running Man doesn't really necessarily set, or it's fun, or they're basically doing the Hunger Games, and they have a dude from the Hunger Games in there, so I'm pretty sure they'll like play on that.
Yeah, probably. But it's, I don't know. At the same time, like I'm kind of more interested for the third season. I think the second season will be something I probably won't ever rewatch again because I don't. Really, it wasn't.
Well, it
Something
makes me want to watch the first season. I just remember that just being so fucking crazy. It was like so hilarious.
Yeah, like butt cocaine.
Yeah,
a bunch of just.
Yeah, he does so much cocaine that he like his like nose is about to fall off, and like he doesn't want to stop doing cocaine, so he just has people like blow it up his ass. And so it's like from then he always got like did too much butt cocaine in the 80s because he gets stuck in the 80s at some point. And...
But yeah, just everything like that, and then also like when they're in like the 1960s or something, and they're like in some town where the professor or like the doctor's going to college, and they're at a all black fraternity.
Yeah. And
like Wolf comes in, and it's like, you people are the worst people. And then it's like, oh yeah, we're getting kicked out of this party. It's like. But yeah, the second season had like 2 or 3 really funny jokes, but yeah, it wasn't really like laughter like every episode.
No,
which was kind of
well, because even like the first 3 episodes, they kind of separate it. Like each character kind of gets their own episode because they do way more with character development and then less with like crazy outlandish humor. It's still crazy outlandish. But yeah, I'm not sure if that had anything to do with the one actor dying that played his mom.
Yeah, I mean it could. But Ed Begley Jr. wasn't in the season at all.
No,
so, I mean,
no, they're just like like everything from the first season they just like disregarded.
Except for him being Juice or whatever.
Yeah.
In like the first, I mean, was that guy from the League, was he like part of his assistant crew like in the first season? Because I thought he was totally new and different.
I can't remember
or whatever. Because I'm like, yeah, swear to God, he wasn't in the first fucking season. But maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, like because there's been some time since the first season, so I have to go back and watch it.
Otherwise, the only other character from the first season was Stu and the detective guy, the Widow Santiago guy or whatever. Like
the one girl who in the first season her head blows up, and in this season her entire body blows up, but her head's okay.
Forgot about that.
Because yeah, she's from Man Seeking Woman.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's his sister.
That's still like my favorite episode from that fucking show, Man Seeking Woman, where it's like Santa Claus is coming to town. Whatever.
She has an affair with Santa. And at some point, she drives a toy train up his ass.
This sounds wonderful.
You should really watch. That's actually probably the better show out of the the 2 we're talking about is Man Seeking.
Oh yeah.
It's always funny every episode. Even probably another highlight one is like where he's in a relationship with like a fucking like a 95 Camry or something like that.
No, it's like a 92 Saturn SL2.
Okay. But he's like that.
Show me the clip from where the guy was painting a picture for his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And it was blowing the dog.
Yeah.
But it was supposed to be like a nice romantic picture.
It's supposed to be a bowl of cherries, and it's like those are all cherries. Like no, it's just you sucking a dog's dick, saying, "Woof woof, cowabunga! Thanks for the blowjob."
And the dog's giving a thumbs up.
No, he goes to change it, and then he changed it to him giving a thumbs up, and they're like, "Now it's worse. Now it's like it's your idea," and the dog's just going along with it.
Well, it's just like there's always. I mean, now I think he's in a. I can't remember where they left off in the last season. Either he's married.
Oh, it's done.
Oh, it's
they
done.
got married, and that's the last episode.
That's fucking what?
Yeah.
God damn it! I was looking forward to the fucking next season of that.
Yeah,
because I figured like
I don't like. I don't know. I think like that. You ever watch that show Love on Netflix?
Yeah.
So they ended it on their 3rd season.
Yeah.
And like I think that was. I don't know if they had bad ratings or whatever, or they just thought like, no, this is the natural end, because it was the natural end.
Yeah.
Because what you do after that is you just break them up again and like have them not understand each other. So it definitely made sense where they kind of had the troubles throughout the season, but it ended where like, oh, we can deal with this. Like we can have a relationship. So like I imagine the same thing would happen with this show is like, well, you'd just be spending the next season like trying to split them up in weird ways, and that wouldn't necessarily feel right.
Well, I kind of just figured maybe they wouldn't split him up, but they would maybe more focus on his buddy because he was still single.
Oh yeah.
But also like you could still have like they both, before they got married, they had kind of a weird dynamic together where they both had weird shit happen to
Yeah.
them. So maybe just like some semi-weird shit would happen to them still as a couple. So they would stay a couple. It might focus more on his friend since he was still an enjoyable character.
Yeah, he just basically, it's like an anthology weird comedy show.
Yeah, I would rather that happen so it keeps it
I don't know,
going.
maybe that could happen. I don't know. But he's moving on to that TBS show you're talking about.
Yeah,
With where Steve Buscemi's God.
yeah.
So he's working on that show now.
No, I know, and that looks really promising. I kind of want to. I hope that turns out well, but who knows?
We'll see.
I mean, TBS is not the same as was it? Fucking
FX.
FX was yeah, that was the other one. So I don't know what the.
But TBS is doing like way better quality stuff than
No.
what they're used to. Because I really like that. What's the name of that show? The detective show that's basically like Airplane but with detectives.
Oh yeah, God damn it.
Because it's a fucking weird name.
It's like she was in The Office and she was on Parks and Rec.
That's Rashida Jones,
Yeah.
the daughter of fucking what's his name? It's a music producer, something Jones.
Oh. Yeah, the famous one.
Angie Tribeca.
Okay.
Oh, it looks like it ended last year. That's a bummer.
What? I haven't even watched the whole. Is it only 2 seasons or is it 3?
I think it's 3.
Alright, because I've seen almost all of the second
4
season.
seasons. Okay.
What?
4 seasons.
Okay. Well, that still sucks because it was a good show.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Maybe.
Quincy Jones.
Yeah, Quincy Jones.
Okay.
My part of the conversation. Call out something random.
Well,
So
Brooke.
how was Sicario, Day of the Soldado?
It was all right. It's well, it definitely wasn't as good as the first one.
Yeah, because I really liked the first one.
I almost like describe it as sort of like an acceptable like Tom Clancy movie. Like,
Okay.
Like almost, what's the one where they're like in the where they have like the special forces guys in Mexico fighting drug.
All Fears.
No.
Oh no.
Ghost Recon.
No, which
No.
one is?
Because
Next-
Clear and Present Danger.
Yeah, Clear and Present. Danger.
So it's
Where the president was basically George Bush.
So here it starts out with there was a suicide bomber attack at a grocery store,
Okay.
and it's all Middle Eastern guys, and they paid a bunch of money to the drug cartels that like control people to get across the border,
Oh, okay.
and so then that allows them to kind of like quietly classify the drug cartels as a terrorist organization, and they
Okay.
basically just unleash special forces guys on into Mexico.
Which is why the drug cartels specifically don't. do
Yes,
that.
yes.
In real life, because that would actually happen.
So it's a good action movie, and there's a lot of like crazy shit. There's a thing near the end of the movie. It's like, well, this kind of completely changes the like how this if this is an ongoing series, this completely changes how this is gonna work. And then something just crazy like unlikely happens. Like, no fucking way. All right, whatever.
Why not? So Benicio del Toro and Josh Brolin and all those people are in it.
Yep.
But the lady from the last one isn't in it.
No, she's not.
I gotta watch some more Denis Villeneuve movies.
Yeah.
I want to watch Enemy next.
Yeah, I hear all his movies are good, but yeah, they a lot of them seem weird. But
Well, I really like Sicario because it was always like waiting for something.
yeah,
Good build up in it, and it wasn't always what you thought it was.
yeah,
And then this at the end of the movie where it's like time to meet God. It's like, oh, he's gonna kill this guy's whole fucking family. Wow, he's gonna shoot the kids with a gun. That's amazing. Yeah, I have to check that out when that becomes available.
On a streaming service, you mean?
Well, I mean, I bought it on Amazon, but I mean, like when it becomes freely available, like on HBO or something.
Because I know I saw it on your Amazon account thing, but I hated the first movie, so I wasn't gonna watch this.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the first movie's kind of divisive. I kind of like this. There's kind of a slow pace to it that I enjoyed.
It wasn't
Like it's like you're waiting for a build up, and like I don't know, like some people hate Emily Blunt's character.
I think she's horrible in that. That is the stupidest fucking character. And it's like you're a government fucking agent that deals with this goddamn shit, and she's having a mental breakdown over this crap. And it's just like, yes, fine, and I get that there needs to be like a progression of the story and everything, but her character is not. If her character is not in that movie, I think that movie would be way better. It's like there has to be a naive person that thinks the war on drugs works a certain way apparently. And then Benicio del Toro's character is gonna tell you how it works. Because yeah, like the border crossing like shootout scene is wonderful.
Yeah.
Like him being a fucking badass in that movie is great. But like the rest of the movie, except for like when like Emily Blunt's character is like getting almost murdered by the guy that
Yeah,
picks her up
that
at the
part's
bar.
that's the weirdest part.
Yeah, it's like okay,
That like
it's
made
kind
no
of
sense.
something I haven't seen before and a little bit interesting, but yeah, it's just weird. So it's I don't know. Maybe I'll watch the second movie because technically it's free.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't count on it.
Yeah, it's just pretty much an action movie, and Emily Blunt's not in it. It's just like a lot of awful things happening.
Because I know I saw Overlord on there, and I was like, I'm really more interested in that movie.
Oh, is that available?
Yeah.
Okay, because I wanted to see that, but I didn't know if it was available.
Well, it was on your
yet.
Fire Stick. I don't know if you. It seemed like you said you bought it. So.
Oh, I might have pre-purchased it,
Oh.
and it just became available.
Because
I
that
might
was
have
like
bought
last
something I
weekend I
forgot.
was looking at it, so.
Okay, yeah, it might be available.
Because I've heard good things, but it got ushered out of theaters so quickly I couldn't even see it.
Yeah,
so.
the Red Letter Media guys really liked that. They said, like, I think this is the best movie this year, at least the most likable movie. And then
like
no
a
one
week
saw
later,
it.
it's out a lot of theaters.
I was also originally supposed to be a continuation of the Cloverfield story.
Well, I think that's just. I know they're trying to bank on that because that's their universe kind of fucking thing. Because Cloverfield Paradox wasn't. Or not Cloverfield Paradox. Cloverfield Lane wasn't a bad movie.
No, it was a good movie.
And then Cloverfield itself is a good movie, but Cloverfield Paradox I hear is horrible. I haven't watched it.
That one had a weird thing. That so basically what they did with that movie, if you don't know the story behind it, is that who was it? Who was in like Paramount? Paramount is the one because they made Annihilation. It was like the same thing where they put a lot of money into this movie.
Yeah.
And then they're like, fuck, nobody's going to watch this. So they sold it to Netflix.
Well, plus isn't Paramount struggling for money right now?
Yeah. So they sold this sci-fi movie to Netflix. They did something with J.J. Abrams. Or maybe he was attached the whole time, I don't know. They repackaged it as a Cloverfield movie. So this had nothing to do, and really none of the Cloverfield movies have anything to do with each other, just kind of vaguely.
Yeah.
And so they basically, so there's that scene with the dude who's like it's like the husband of like the main character, and like his entire scenes were shot afterwards to make it kind of connect with the ending where the monster pops out. And then so, yeah. Apparently, and they premiered it during the Super Bowl. It's like free on Netflix. Well, not really. It's on your Netflix subscription. And then a lot of people watched it. I remember we watched it. It was like, oh, that was kind of neat. And then just like the hate and backlash came afterwards. It's like, this is a terrible movie. And then you learn about the history of it. It's like, oh, okay, yeah. This is just some weird cash in. But yeah, Paramount sold it away because they knew they weren't going to make money on it. And it was like Netflix was just throwing money at anything just to get content.
I understand their reasoning behind, like, oh, this isn't a wide interest movie, it's probably not going to gain a lot. But Annihilation was a very good movie. I don't think you need to have read the books to, like, really appreciate that movie for what it is.
Yeah.
It helps you understand it more, but it doesn't bar you from entry if you just want to pick it up and watch it. It's a very visually interesting movie. It has good acting. It has a good story you can follow along with. You don't.
Well, I mean, they're also right because they didn't make money here.
I think if they, I don't know.
I mean, maybe if they would have did more advertising with it, but I doubt it.
Well, it's not so much advertising.
And it depends where they released. I think I like released in February or some shit.
Yeah, I didn't release in a hot
Cold
month.
I know that. I think it was March, but yeah.
Yeah, it's,
Like around Deadpool 2.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's a summer movie, but I think if you release it during the horror part of the year and market it more as like a
Yeah, it probably would've worked as
psychological
a-
horror movie, you
Oh
probably
yeah,
could've got more
definitely.
draw
Yeah,
from it.
because definitely that scene with the bear human thing, like that's like fucking. You just make that the whole. You make it seem like that's the whole movie, and then you sell it in October.
And then people get pissed off. It's like, where the fuck was the bear for 90% of the movie?
What's with all these fucking plants growing and looking like people? Like I don't give a shit. What about the weird shark alligator thing?
What about the guy's intestines moving around? Fucking Jenga puzzle. You see more of that. Yeah, that bear scene one. Like, what was that? There was a bunch of places that said that was the most horrifying scene in a movie in 2018.
Which is nice that they, at least they got recommendations and accolades or something, but that wasn't exactly what the movie was about. So.
Well, everyone who talks about that movie that I listened to that I think has interesting opinions, they all liked it. But they all agreed it was like, I think the studio got handed something they didn't understand and they didn't know what to do with it. So like, let's stick it over here and never talk about it again.
Well, it's
But yeah, also that was like, Paramount was hemorrhaging money, so they didn't want to spend that enough money on the advertising campaign. Probably when they sold it to Netflix overseas, that probably just paid for the advertising campaign itself, and then they just called it a wash, like zero.
well, it's probably just something too where it's the hot. I mean, it's a dying trend now, thankfully, and thankfully it's not a tween age book because it just seems like, oh, it's a bestseller book or series. We'll just adapt this into a movie and print money. And it just seems like that, I think, is dying because there's not that many books that are series that have come out that haven't been adapted.
Oh no, there's one coming out this month. It's some kid's book that looks terrible.
Well, not kids' book. I'm just talking about books in general.
Yeah.
Between, like, Game of Thrones, Harry Potter, the Annihilation books, God damn it. Stuff like, I can't, the show we were talking, The Expanse, before we came on and stuff like that. Stuff like that, where it's like stuff that's been around for, a decade or more that's cemented in popular reading culture that they can make money off of by adapting it.
Well, yeah, because it has a built-in fan base.
Yeah.
Because like they don't want to lose money, so they don't want to do completely original stuff nowadays. So the least you can do is like, is it based on something? Because then you already have that built-in audience.
Yeah.
So that's why they do it. It's not necessarily because like they can't come up with their own stuff. They're just afraid to because their stuff sucks.
I was gonna say is like technically they've proven they can't come up with their own stuff because they keep just reiterating and rehashing things they've done a million times.
Because like it's pretty much Christopher Nolan is like the only director out there that gets to make original movies. Like he writes them, directs them. They cost hundreds of millions of dollars, and they're never based on anything. It's like what he comes up with.
Oh, Guillermo del Toro does pretty. I mean, not that he's original all the way or whatever, but he does like original.
Yeah,
movies.
most of the stuff is original. I mean, he like got big doing a sequel of Blade 2, but yeah, Pacific Rim was just completely him. That wasn't based on anything.
Pan's Labyrinth is kind of based on Aesop's Fables a little bit.
Oh, okay. And then Shape of Water is original, right? That's not based on
that's
anything.
like Shyamalan, I thought. Or,
Shape of Water?
no, sorry, that's a different fucking thing. That's Lady in the Water. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, no.
That was based on something.
Yeah. But no, I mean, yeah, otherwise there's not a lot of fucking like creativity to be found. I realize that like it's basically millions of dollars gambling on.
Well, I guess also Christopher Nolan earned credit making Batman movies.
Yeah.
So
True.
he's not all original, but but Prestige, he made that between Batman movies, and that's one of his best fucking movies.
No, it's a good movie. It's a lot better than that Edward Norton piece. Like
Oh,
I
The
tried
Magician.
watching that one after I watched Prestige and Bad was
Yeah, it's a bad combination.
Yeah, it's not exactly a palate cleanser.
You reverse the order. It's like, this is an okay movie, and you watch that one. It's like, well, I guess that was a piece of shit because this is awesome.
As much as I love Edward Norton.
Speaking of which, I found an old TV show, or a TV show I like is back this year. True Detective season 3 started.
I heard good things about it, but I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, it is. They're kind of bad. This is set in Arkansas in 1980.
Okay.
And it's weird because they actually filmed it in Arkansas, this is the biggest thing that's ever been filmed in Arkansas. 'Cause it took 4 years to shoot. which was like amazing because they said they wanted because I guess the guy who created this, that Nicholas, the guy who
You're breaking up.
Oh no, the winter storm has gotten to.
Nathan is frozen in place.
Oh yeah, I think we're losing the internet.
Oh,
Are you hear me now?
yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Anyway, True Detective season 3.
We were talking about how they filmed it in Arkansas.
Palazzo or whatever went to university there for a couple years.
Okay.
And he wanted to set something there, and there's only one place that looks like Arkansas. So that's why they filmed it there. And it's got a good cast. The lead guy is
Mahershala Walk. Yeah.
Yeah, and he does a great job as being just a haunted guy staring at a camera. And then you have Steven Dorff as his partner.
Huh, I haven't seen him for a while.
Yeah, and he does a good job in this, playing kind of a redneck northern Arkansas State Police investigator.
Does he ever slip up and like Blade? Like, oh shit.
No, he hasn't done that yet.
And then Mahershala Ali turns around and goes like, "Some motherfuckers are trying to ice skate uphill," and then he kicks a syringe into him.
No, that didn't happen. Not yet.
That line was actually ad-libbed by Steven Dorff.
Oh, okay. But they, this one, they're back. Yeah, it seems like they're back to form. It's not as zany as the Matthew McConaughey, Woody Harrelson combination of the first season of True Detective, but we're back into the world of, is there a cult of child murderer pedophiles again? And we're taking our time with this, but this is only 8 episodes. So.
Oh, okay.
But they're doing they did a lot of like establishing the environment. Episode 1 and then episode 2, which I watched yesterday, is a lot of like character backstories. So that's we're moving into that now.
How many episodes were the first 2 seasons? Like 10?
I think it's 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because usually they do like 13 episodes for kind of those like half seasons because we're putting a lot of money into it. So I think they cut 3 episodes because they're putting way more money into it.
No, I get that. I'm fine if it's a good story. It's only 8 episodes. It's just kind of something where I couldn't remember how many episodes were in the first 2 seasons. I knew it wasn't like a lot, but I thought it was more than 8.
Yeah, well, it's a solid hour too. There's no commercials.
Yeah, which is nice.
So yeah, it's really like they're doing 60 minutes per episode, not 41 or whatever, to fit it into commercial TV. So they are a little longer. But yeah, I have high hopes for this so far. I mean, season 1 of True Detective was like my spirit animal. Like if I imagine ever doing anything creative, I would want it to be something like season 1 of True Detective. It's like that was wasn't a perfect show, but it was so good and so watchable. And not really because I mean, the actors were great, and that definitely made it and helped it, but just like that whole notion of like there's evil out there that's so evil it seems supernatural, but it's not really. It's just being fucked up. But you know, it's like that was amazing. I loved season 1 True Detective.
And that one also was helped by that the one guy, the director, he directed every episode, the Cary Fukunaga or whatever.
Yeah. Not sure who's directing these.
And the strongest part of the second season was the 2 songs that were really good that season. That was about it.
Oh yeah, the opening was good, and then nothing else. Actually, there's something I liked. What's her name? Rachel McAdams.
Yeah.
Because I just like her in things, and she seems like she's not in things anymore. I mean, she was in Game Night, and that was like the recent thing she did.
Season 2 of True Detective was still better than a lot of shows, but you kept waiting for it to go. It's like, okay, when are we hitting the accelerator here? When is this getting weird? And it never. It
got weird whenever Vince Vaughn was on screen.
Yeah, well, Vince Vaughn, it was like, this is the bad guy you're kind of supposed to like, but at the end you're like, oh, good, he's dying. Good, we don't have to deal with this asshole again.
I thought it would have been amazing if if he just walked out of the desert and somehow didn't bleed to death. It's like, is this motherfucker just gonna walk out of the desert alive? And like, no. It was like, oh, okay, well, never mind.
Yeah.
Or the part where Colin Farrell's just like hiding by trees and then popping out and shooting guys with a shotgun, and it works like 6 times in a row, and then like at the end he just like jumps out with like a gun and a shotgun. It's like the hiding and shooting thing seemed to be working the whole time.
Yeah, keep that up. There's more guys. Yeah, season 2 never launched, but it was trying to follow up season 1 was a nightmare.
Yeah.
But this one is so far true to form, and it's almost the same kind of story. It seems like only this just involves.
Is there like anchors in 2 different time periods like the first one?
Yes.
Okay.
From the trailer, it seemed like that was going to be a thing, but
Yeah, actually, how many different time? No, there's 3 different time periods in this one.
Okay.
There's 1980, there's 1990, and the present day. And the main detective in this, Wayne Ali, he has dementia.
Huh.
So it's kind of being told through his narration, but a lot of people with dementia remember things in the past very clearly, but the present not so much. So I don't know how they're going to merge this, because he seems to have some kind of memory problems. But yeah, they're doing 3 different time periods, and the character in this was like he was what's called a LARP in Vietnam, which is a long-range recon patrol guy.
I was going to say a live-action role player.
They called him a LARP when I first heard that, and I was like, what? And then Stephen Dorff explained, because this guy kind of went off into the woods once the kids were declared missing, and he found them.
Yeah.
And all the other guys were like, that's kind of weird. And he's like, yeah, dude, he was a LARP. I mean, because one of the characters in the show, she was asking him, so what was Vietnam like for you? And he's like, I was alone most of the time. And that's all he said. But other people kind of fill in the back. It's like, yeah, those guys went into the jungles for weeks finding out where people were, and they came back with scalps and ears because that's what they did. And so it's implied that this guy saw some really horrible shit in Vietnam, and it never. And there's another character in here that was in Vietnam who he kind of identifies with, because the guy he's a messed up guy. And so yeah, it's doing great character development. Stories, we're 2 episodes in, and we're still moving along, but we haven't had that first big jump shock.
Yeah.
We just have a couple missing kids. One of them found dead, and in a weird way, but that's True Detective. So
Oh, I guess it's good. It's getting back to its roots.
yeah, we'll see. He said we'll see.
Well, there's not a highway patrolman questioning his sexuality running down the highway with no headlight on to start the season. So
No, that's not happening.
Wait, what show's that?
This is season 2 of True Detective.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's how much I forgot about that.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the problems I haven't seen with it, because season 2 True Detective threw a lot of shit at you at once, like in the first 2 episodes, and it was like, what is this? How's this all connect? This show's not doing that. It's occurring in 3 different timelines, and still looking at things through that lens.
It doesn't have like 8 different stories and like they're all
No,
gonna
no,
connect at the end.
No, it's not doing that yet. Not yet. Let's see. What happens.
Because I don't know, like, was there like a 2 or 3 years between this season and the last one?
yeah, it's probably been like longer than that by
It
now.
was like 4,
Yeah, okay, probably.
maybe.
Because time helps.
2015.
Okay.
So this is 2019. So yeah, it's about 4 years. But this was so 3 years. This was a whole year of production time.
Okay.
It was one of the longest.
That's what they're doing with Fargo too. They like, it was like how the production they need snow. They took a year off. So like,
Yeah.
I think maybe a new season of Fargo will come out this year.
I'm just waiting for the new season of Fargo so I can see the last season of Fargo. So finally posted on Hulu. Because isn't that one with Ewan McGregor? Or
Yes.
This is
Yes.
the last season.
Please.
And he plays 2 characters.
Yep.
Which will be
Brothers.
interesting to see.
Yeah, it's a good season. I I don't like as much as the second season, but it's different enough that it doesn't really need to draw comparisons.
Yeah.
It has the sad ending you want, so. Oh, I like that person. Never mind.
Fargo.
See, my wife is gonna make me watch or I guess I was watching this show. I guess it's an NBC show. It's called Good Girls.
Oh yeah, I tried watching the first episode.
Yeah, I watched 3 episodes, and after that, I was like, no more. And my wife was like, "What? It's a good show." I'm like, "This is not a good show. Like, it is the female Breaking Bad with no drugs and just a whiny housewife and her friends that complain about doing things for Mexican cartels every episode." It's like the first episode, it's like, oh, okay, it's the get your toes warm, like, oh, I didn't know what crime was. And the second episode, same issues. Well, how can you tell us to do this and blah blah blah? And not, it's always every fucking episode's the same goddamn dynamic. They get caught up in doing something for the cartel for money because they're stressed for money, and they bitch about doing criminal activity again, and don't seem to realize, hey, they're being criminals or whatever. And it's like, okay. And then the lady, the detective from Fargo seasons 1 and 2, the female cop, she's actually in that show as you go later on into it.
Huh.
And I was like, oh, it's too bad she turned up on this show. It's like, I know she needs to eat, but this show is bad. And then I told my wife, was like, isn't it weird that all the characters are kind of perfect? And she was like, what do you mean perfect? I'm like, they don't really have flaws. It's like there's a single mom that does everything that's just her one main thing.
Oh, the only problem in their world is everybody else.
Yeah.
It's not them. They're not.
Yeah, there's no.
They're not the source of their own problems.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
It's not them that's the problem. It's everybody else. So I was like, how come? I mean, technically one's kind of a fuck up, but the other two are perfect. They're totally fine. It's like not one's an alcoholic, not one's somebody that, you know, has a crippling fear of something.
Yeah, because like Christina Hendricks, like her character, her husband's cheating on her, and he like has wasted all the money.
Yeah, it's nice to see Matthew Lillard in something again, but it's like I got to like the 4th episode, he's faking having cancer so he can come back to the family, and I'm like, this show's fucking stupid. And my wife's like, fine, I'll watch it without you. I'm like, go ahead. Like, not my problem.
Maybe Takers is a better version of that.
Probably.
That's a movie where it's like Liam Neeson is a bank robber, and then like he gets killed.
Oh.
And then like the wives like take up the bank robbery.
Yeah, I've kind of wanted to see that because I did watch like the movie where old men like rob shit. It was like directed by like fucking Zach Braff and had Michael Caine and fucking like a couple other like good older actors in it. And that was an okay movie.
It's not the one Old Man and a Gun, is it? Or that one with
it's just like 4 old guys like start robbing places because they need money.
So I remember there was that one with Robert Redford that came out recently where it's just like a guy and a gun or whatever.
Oh yeah.
It's Robert Redford, and I don't even know if he actually has a gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the name of it, it's just like something in a gun. That's like the name of the movie or something.
Yeah.
Like Old Man and a Gun or some shit like
that sounds like a suicide film.
that. Guess how this ends, kids.
The third act, it takes a twist.
Yeah, the gun to fire.
Oh yeah, speaking of twists, I hear the new M. Night Shyamalan movie's really bad.
Well, that was a shock.
Yeah.
Which is surprising considering how much build-up there was to this and how much
Oh
promise.
no, I mean that's exactly how M. Night Shyamalan works. It's like, oh, I bet this is gonna be good. Nope.
The genius is back from the guy who made The Sixth Sense 20 years ago. We're waiting to recapture that magic.
So we have to get to a point where M. Night Shyamalan is underrated again, and then he can make a good movie again.
I don't think after this he's gonna have to make one low-budget, really good movie to get back into anybody's.
I mean,
good
that's what Split was, because that was really low budget and a lot of like local, I mean, he does everything locally, but like he didn't like have his Hollywood guys. He just hired local Pennsylvania like film students and stuff like that to do that movie.
So why the hell? I mean, I know you got Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson on board, so that's gonna make the fucking budget go way the fuck through the roof.
That's at least $40 million right there.
But at the same time, it's like if you look at it in my perspective, Samuel L. Jackson's getting older, Bruce Willis is getting older. They're both not gonna do this probably ever again.
Yeah.
why are you fucking wasting this opportunity to do a sequel with another add-on edition with James McAvoy's character? And it's like you're.
Well, I mean, as far as I'm hearing, it's doing well at the box office, so you'll probably see another. You'll probably see another movie. So.
Oh, I know, but it's just sad going on Rotten Tomatoes, like, oh, it's 30%.
Yeah.
And then it's like looking at like, okay, all the main reviewers, like the main people like Washington Post and shit, hate it.
Yeah.
But all like the indie reviewers of smaller sites, all their good reviews are, well, it's not good, but it's not horrible. And it's like, that's not a good review. That's a middling review.
You can watch this movie all the way through.
Oh, it's another, it's another Rotten Tomatoes split. 36% professional critics, 80% audience. So.
Yeah, and
Weird paradigm again.
some of those movies are exactly that. I'll enjoy it, and then I'm like, those critics are fucking idiots. And then other times it's like, well, they're totally right about that movie. So
Well, movie critics do not like M. Night Shyamalan, so he managed to alienate all those guys. So. Wait, I'm too smart for you guys. Oh, okay. Well, here, watch this. Type.
Hopefully, he didn't say he was too smart for him after he made The Last Airbender.
I think he just cashed that.
I think the movie I like the most that critics hated was Way of the Gun. Like, I fucking love that movie, and I keep watching. It's like, nope, this is still a good movie. Like, critics are wrong.
Yeah, critics are wrong about a lot of things.
Well,
I mean, like that last Star Wars movie, the last main one, the Last Jedi.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, the critics were really wrong about that. That was not an amazing movie. It was okay, and I'm not going to get into the political on it because I think that's just stupid. I just evaluate the story. It's like, yeah, it was all right. It wasn't the greatest thing ever put on film since the A New Hope, but okay. But that's where the critics and the political.
Well, that's one of those things where it's if it defies your expectation, it's like A+.
Yeah.
You didn't make the standard movie.
I expected to be entertained for more than half of it, so yeah, it defied my expectations. Only entertained half the time. For a $300 million movie, I think I should be entertained at least 75% of the time.
I'd like to do like almost a film experiment because like to me I thought that movie I really liked that movie, but I wonder if I would like it better if you found somebody to just edit out the whole casino sequence.
That's worth trying. That's the part that's there's a few.
That was the only part I felt like this is a separate movie crammed into this movie.
This is added in for no reason, but yeah, we'll see.
Well, because everybody knows the Star Wars movie with the heist 30-minute block in the middle of it or whatever is the best type of movie. Because when has there ever been a?
But I almost seemed like a producer thing. Like, all right, you can make your weird movie, Ryan, but you gotta have a heist sequence because people like those things. Like, you can't just have this movie where people are stuck on a ship till they all die.
And the rebellion ended.
Well, because I mean, how else do you?
Fucking, a weird version of the Imperial March at the end. Well, it's all over. Evil wins. Trump is president.
Well, because I haven't watched the movie since it was in theaters. I bought the DVD, but I never rewatched the movie again. I can't remember why. Do they go to the planet to find somebody that'll help them get rid of the tracker, or do they go there for some other reason? Because I can't fucking remember.
No, they go there for a guy who can break into stuff.
Oh, because they're gonna get aboard the Super Star Destroyer and
something like
fucking
that.
change it so they can't track him if they go to hyperspace.
And the guy they were looking for was there was a guy at the table. He's like kind of a smooth James Bond looking motherfucker, and that was actually the guy they're looking for. And the Benicio del Toro guy that they actually meet was the wrong guy, but he's also crafty enough to do the things they wanted to. But then the Empire just paid him off at the end. So, well,
it's just something where. I mean, supposedly Benicio del Toro's character has a big role in the fucking last movie, or not that I give a shit.
I don't know. I really his character was interesting and gave, kind of plot development to the world where it's like all these people are making money just selling military supplies to both sides. It's like everybody loses except for these people selling. It's like, I thought that was like, because that never gets addressed in Star Wars movie, probably because it bores people. But that's like things I like.
Yeah.
Back to the Senate sequences.
Yeah, that's one thing, because that's something like I like. Like, so, there's something about a prequel that like seems interesting to me. Is like, oh, here's their backstory to all this stuff. And it's like, oh, that's cool. It's like, but then when you get to it, it's like, oh, I guess I don't care about the clockwork of how this all comes together. I guess it's really just all about the characters and the interesting sequences, and not like how this shit fits together like a puzzle.
Yeah, the Senate subcommittee on the purchasing of AT-AT. Be an interesting looking at blueprints, but there would be a certain part of the Star Wars fan universe that would say it was the greatest thing ever put on film. However, it wouldn't be enough of them to carry it to profit. So,
like, make
disagree with everything that was said.
Like, just make an entire Netflix series that 10 episodes that's basically that Kenneth Branagh conspiracy movie or about the Nazis' final solution, but it's a Star Wars.
Oh yeah, like
it's nothing but meetings.
Yeah, like the Wannsee conference, but about the Death Star.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do about this Wookiee problem?
Well, how long was
I hate the Wookiees too, but we have to find a technical definition for the lawyers to come up with so we can legally kill them.
Well, because how long was the runtime of The Last Jedi? Like over 2 hours?
2.5 hours.
Yeah. All right, so if you say you cut the heist part of the movie completely.
2 hours.
Okay, so 2 hours. But say you just pad if you really want the runtime to be over 2 hours, not that it needs to fucking be.
No, it doesn't need to be.
But like the whole like rebellion within the rebellion, when like fucking Poe like tries to seize control of the ship and kill what's her face or whatever, detain her because she's gonna kill everybody, being a stupid woman or whatever his reasoning was. Since he wouldn't.
It's the lady from all the David Lynch films. You can't trust her.
But it's like if you just pad that out and just have like, since Poe is basically being detained for trying to escape in an escape pod at the beginning of the movie anyway, just have him kind of like come together with him and have like a slightly longer resistance to the resistance subplot. Yeah. And just like, and then still have the same everything else where they're like, oh, the whole plan was to get to this planet and then put the escape pods to it. And ride it out until, they pass by and then call for help. And then the whole, everything else happens. And it's like, yeah, I think that would have been a more solid movie. And it probably would have not pissed people off as much.
Yeah.
Or you could have like abandoned one of the ships and set a droid in there and done the hyperdrive to destroy the mega ship without anyone having to kill themselves.
Yeah, I think that's
if that actually worked, they should have done that in every Star Wars movie. Get that Corellian freighter up there, point it towards the Death Star.
They call us terrorists. We might as well be terrorists. Let's do it.
Fucking 9/11. That's fucking movie's over. Well, the rebellion won, but now they're hated. Terrorists. Oh.
Yeah, I think that was the other part. People's main problem with that movie
is
a
big problem with that whole fucking story. It was like, what?
That's the thing, though. I'm sure they wrote themselves into a fucking corner where it's like, well, obviously, how the hell is this going to turn out? Because you can't just kill off an entire fleet with a ship that doesn't have any fucking energy left and like almost no fucking shields and no offensive capability. So how do we do this? It's like, oh, just have it go to light speed. It'll like fucking trash the whole fleet. And it's like, what else do you do? Like, there's a computer virus they upload that kills the fucking fleet or whatever. Like, how else do you write yourself out of that, I guess?
We're gonna Independence Day and 9/11 this shit.
Yeah. You write yourself into a corner by wanting a dramatic ending for kind of a minor character, but to have that whole sacrifice thing, but you introduce an element where it's like everyone who sees it is like, why the fuck weren't they doing this all along? You don't even need to put lasers on. Just put a hyperdrive on it and some engines. Make it out of a block of steel.
Well, I mean, you have
things into the Imperial Star Destroyers.
Well, I mean, you have the whole fucking subplot in there how Kylo Ren and Rey take on, what's his fucking face and kill him and his guard.
Oh, Snoke. I
Yeah,
think is-
Snoke. Yeah, which I kind of was disappointed that he's not still around because I'm like, well, technically, I guess Kylo Ren's the bad guy now, but
Yeah.
he's been pretty ineffectual to this point. So we'll see how that works out in the third movie.
I killed my dad.
And I killed a hologram of my uncle. But no, fuck, what was I gonna say? Why couldn't you just have it be? Because in the fucking like the non-canon books now for Star Wars, like Luke Skywalker went over to the fucking dark side for a while. Like for a couple fucking years, he went to the dark side, worked with Vader and shit. Just have Rey fucking go over to the dark side with Kylo Ren, and they'll rule together. And then she calls off the assault on the rebels, and that's how they get out of the fucking jam. And then there's no fucking like, oh, they just 9/11 that shit all fucking day long, every day.
Yeah.
Well, one interesting thing I thought of, which I thought they were gonna lead to, which was I thought they were gonna have, what's her name, Ren, or
Rey.
Rey.
Yeah.
I thought they were gonna have it that like so. There seems to be a pretty distinct thing like when you're on the dark side or when you're on the good side. There's different powers associated to it. So like bad people have lightning and shit like that. So I thought they were gonna do something with Rey where she basically has dark side powers, but she is not corrupted morally by the dark side. So I thought like she might do violent shit to people, but it's to save people's lives.
Does it with love.
Yeah. But that wasn't really. They didn't go with that. I do like that. Her parents aren't anything special. It's like your parents were alcoholics. They sold you to some fucking sand miners.
I think that was just to kill the whole debate that it was like Luke and Leia's like love child they stuck on a planet or some shit.
Well, that would be gross because their brother incest baby.
I know, but that was actually a fucking theory that it was like fucking Luke and Leia.
Yeah, we're gonna Game of Thrones this shit.
Fucking child.
Incest, the power of the Force.
It's a super force, baby.
Jar Jar Binks sucked. Wait till we introduce incest Jedi. Incredibly powerful morons.
They have a third arm or
Yeah.
fucking eye on their stomach or some shit.
Fucking nipple with a lightsaber shooting out of it. Like, why not at this point?
No, we were talking about fucking like Emperor Palpatine at the shop on Friday because we were like, doesn't he just seem? I mean, he's always like just the makeup effects and his voice and stuff like that, a very creepy vibe. And it's like somebody was talking about like, yeah, if he was at a bar where he was like ordering another Death Star and didn't believe the first one blew up, and that was like his next question is like, where's the nearest park with children? And no, this isn't a bathrobe. And it's like, and then his bathrobe slightly parts open, you can see his saggy balls hanging down where he's sitting on his throne and shit. And he just has like force lightning going through his pubes. Like,
I need to trim those.
when I think about you, I touch. God. Like, but no, it was just something. It's like, doesn't he just seem like a fucking creepo pedophile kind of like energy? He sits around in a goddamn bathrobe all day.
Yeah, he just came to power just so it was easier for him to be a pedophile. No one can stop me now.
Yeah, all the 1,000 years of the Sith was just a giant pedophile. Just Pizzagate on the Death Star. Just giant build up to all of human history is really about rape. It's like you're in or you're out. Either you know or you don't know. But once you know, you wish you didn't know.
Have you started construction on the Molestar? I mean, Death Star. Like,
Luke, come to the dark side. Do we have those kids I ordered?
no, there was it's like no spoilers or anything, but it was the first episode of the second season of Punisher, and like Jigsaw supposedly doesn't remember anything he's done to anybody. Like he just thinks he's still in like Iraq with like Frank and what's his face, the guy it's like the counselor. I can't remember his name.
Can't remember.
But anyway, I was joking with my wife, and it's like people that like really hate him or like in the room with him is like, what did I do? And I'm like, I would just make up some heinous shit. Like, how did you bless so many kids within the year? And what did you do with their bodies, you sick bastard? Just shit like that, just to fuck with them, just so he'd like lose his shit even more. And it's like, So, the theme of the day is I'm into molesting children now, apparently, because we're gonna just talk about molesting
YouTube,
children.
that is not true.
No, I know.
Apple, that is not true.
Don't take that out of context, kid.
Sorry. I don't know why joking about that as far as like calling Emperor Palpatine a child molester or Jigsaw a fake child molester is funny, but yeah, it just doesn't.
Well, because you just can't imagine.
Because that's
that.
the absurdest. That's,
Yeah.
it's
Like, what's the worst thing we can imagine? We doing Holocaust humor today? No, it's pedophile.
It's all the rage.
Yeah, it's all the rage.
Holocaust is too old.
Yeah. Remember when Holocaust denial was cool, kid?
Well, take your clothes off.
Yeah. Let's mix two things together.
Fuck. Yeah, there's some asshole that like fuck it. It was on a Reddit thread for a little while this week, where it was somebody was at Auschwitz, and they were inside the gas chamber. Took a picture of like the people that left claw marks on there as they were dying, and they're like, "This never happened." I'm like, "Are you fucking serious right now?" it's like,
oh, that's still going on. That's still a thing.
yeah, because there was. I mean, I don't know if it was. I mean, hopefully it was fucking fake and people were just trolling people. Even then, it's still horrible. But at the same time, it's like, how the fuck can you see that? Just like millions of scratches from people dying in their last breaths, of people like turned into a fucking chamber. They're like, yeah, this is totally fake. They just faked this.
Well, I mean,
some people just are extreme anti-Semite, and they think that all Jews are just like the ultimate professional victims.
Yeah.
That's just how shitty people
Well,
are.
I mean, look at the kids that got shot at these schools. But, I mean, these people are actually still alive. Like, this isn't like 70 years ago this happened. These people, I mean, didn't the people at Sandy Hook just win a lawsuit against some of these internet people for saying, well, you guys are all liars? And I mean, they were calling these people at home like, your kid never died, you're full of shit. So, yeah, people are just monsters most of the time.
Well, because there's something about conspiracy theories that like make people either believe that they have something that is of value and matters, or they're actually important for some reason. Like, I don't know.
I'm the only one that knows the truth, and I gotta tell everybody.
I guess. I mean,
I figured it out. I'm important now.
I mean, otherwise, why would you? Why would you indulge in such fantasies that ruin people's lives that way?
Yeah.
Like, or expand upon their grief even further for your own amusement.
Well, because I mean, some of it is like, I'm a purveyor of truth and I'm important and you must pay attention to me. The school shooting things are just like, I'm just so full of hate. I just can't wait to call someone and tell them that their kid didn't die.
And also, you're not taking my guns away.
Oh, well, yeah. That,
Well, I was like, yeah, I thought that was more or less the crux of the conspiracy theory, that they're just trying to take our guns
Yeah,
away. 'Cause otherwise,
the Democrats set up a hit job at a school, or at least a news story that happened on the precipice of taking all our guns away.
yeah, that was the thing.
next they're gonna,
The
next
most
somebody's.
unlikely way to do things.
Oh, I was like, next somebody's gonna say that Pearl Harbor never happened.
That's
in D-Day and
That yeah, it's there.
yeah.
it's there. People believe Pearl Harbor was Pearl Harbor was an inside job, and people were saying that after it happened. Like, that was, I mean, not mainstream, of course, but there was always guys that like, hey, come here, kid, let me tell you.
How come all the aircraft carriers were gone that day?
Yeah.
I don't know, training exercises. Like,
But that's one thing you could like lead to a conspiracy. It's like, well, a lot of that war, that the aircraft carriers were like the prime thing we used to attack the Japanese, and how come all of them happen to not be there on Pearl Harbor? That seems weird, and you can just run with that if you want to.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, I guess it's a legitimate point, but at the same time, it doesn't mean it's fake.
No.
I mean, it's just the same thing where it's like any reasonable.
Yeah, we talked about with the
investigation.
JFK conspiracy, like all the data you can collect about that, and now you can just reach any conclusion you want if you collect enough data.
Yeah, it all becomes, things that don't mean anything on any other day are wildly important on that day. It's like, why did this happen on that day?
So Pearl Harbor always had a consistent 5-day cafeteria rotation. So on Wednesdays it was always meatloaf, but the day before the attack it was a Friday, and they served meatloaf. You tell me that's not fucking weird? You tell me there's something not.
Think
not
about
behind
it.
that?
Meatloaf was an inside job.
Like, if it was that for an argument, I'd be like, yeah, you're just fucking crazy. But the whole aircraft carrier thing does make logical sense, but at the same time, there's such a thing called military drills and exercises.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we had our fleet out somewhat just doing patrols.
Also, aircraft carriers have a ton of fuel on them, so they can just go out there for a while.
And also, common sense will tell you that just like Bush and 9/11 and all those interesting theories, which I explored and I enjoy reading about, but don't believe them, is as a president, as a national leader, you don't put all your chips on one number and throw those dice like, oh, I'm going to pull this off and we're going to win. Or one of thousands of people who know about this are going to talk and I'm going to be put up against the wall and shot. Which way are we going here? That's not, politicians are risk averse as much as possible. So, but anyway, we watched a movie this week.
Yes.
We watched the classic South Park, bigger, longer, and uncut, from 1999.
Cow's Mom's bitch is big fat bitch is biggest bitch in the whole wide world.
Well, everything about this movie is just like all the double entendres, even in the title. It's just a joke about circumcision. So that was is this still one of the highest grossing R-rated films ever?
No. I mean,
Oh.
probably one of them, but like Matrix probably made more money than this, and then also like all the Deadpool movies and stuff like that, and Wanted. So it's keep getting kicked off the list. But yeah, it's probably up there.
It's up there. I mean, for a movie that's just trying to be obscene.
It's the highest. It's probably the highest box office R-rated musical ever.
Yeah, it's probably if you consider this a musical, it's probably one of the two musicals I like,
Yeah.
and both of I guess.
Or
yeah.
R-rated animated movie, because I don't know how
Yeah.
many of those are really popular.
I mean, any animes are rated.
Yeah, I saw this in the theater, actually. I remember when this came out.
I saw this with my parents in the theater because I was not old enough to purchase an R-rated ticket.
Were
Well,
your parents as thrilled as you were?
oh yeah, this is probably the best movie experience I ever had in my life.
Oh, really?
It was a full audience. Everyone was laughing along. Made the movie better because we're probably all laughing at jokes that probably weren't that funny, but like fuck it, whatever.
I mean, South Park does do a lot of political, like, in the now, like, humor, but I don't know if the movie really did that.
Not really. I mean, you had Saddam Hussein, but yeah. I mean, this is only like their second year. I think they're on season 3 when they made this movie. So it's like pretty early on before they got really political.
Yeah, this was just shock value and funny songs. And they had a great relationship with the studio making this. They really had a good time working with the studio.
I didn't look up any of the like backstory of making of stuff, so you'll have to like.
It was just a constant fight
Okay.
because Paramount they wanted to rush it into production, and then they wanted to try to promote it without all the R-rated stuff in it, and they were trying to sidestep the fact that like this is a really vulgar movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because it was an animated movie, and it seemed like they were they were trying to question every step of the production. It's like they're gonna sing a song saying what? Sucking their uncle's dick? What is this?
Fuck your fucking face, Uncle Fucker.
Yeah. Or fucking your uncle or something. Yeah, it was, and they had a very contentious relationship the whole time with making this movie. because everyone was trying to manage it, and it was something you couldn't manage because it was uniquely its own thing.
Yeah.
It's like, how do we get, the 14-year-old crowd? You don't. So they're trying to like promote this on MTV and stuff. It was really weird. There was some there was a lot of interviews that Matt Parker, Trace did, and it was they seemed to have, the studio seemed to have like weird expectations of what they could do with it. And they were shocked at how vulgar it was when they finally like put it all together and were showing people. It's like, what the fuck is this? But in the end,
and nominated. I believe one of those songs got nominated for an Oscar. I can't.
Yeah.
They actually played it at the Oscars. I can't remember which one it was though.
Yeah, because Robin Williams sung it. It was "Blame Canada."
Okay. Yeah. It's the only one that didn't have a bunch of swear words in it.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Except for the Brian Boitano song. Well, I just had swear words in it, but it wasn't necessarily all swear words.
Yeah, it wasn't as great.
Yeah.
It's not Kyle. It's not Kyle's mom's a bitch or Uncle Fucker.
Yep.
But
Yeah,
no,
and they what else? Oh, yeah, that was another thing they had because when they wanted to make a movie, they said, well, we want to do something like completely unchained from the South Park TV show where we're kind of restricted by rules and about obscenity and stuff. And that's I think the studio wanted to do something more like a longer version of the South Park TV show. And they're like, no, we want to say fuck and all kinds of awful stuff. And we want to swear more than has ever been sworn in any movie.
So when did you see it in theaters or did you
no,
see it
I
at
didn't
home?
see it until it came out on home video.
Okay.
If my mom would have took that movie, she probably would have fucking killed me. I mean,
That was
not
the
my mom
worst
just-
movie I've ever seen.
My mom has a pretty decent sense of humor, but I don't think it's that. She doesn't like swear words that much. She
Yeah.
would use them, or be fine with me using one of them, but she doesn't like how much I swear in real life, let alone that movie.
Well, sometimes like when you're watching a movie with your parents, there's lots of swearing. It's kind of like if you're watching a movie and then suddenly there's a sex scene. It's like, let's get as far away from each other as we possibly can. But with this, it was a cartoon, so like I don't know. Like it was easier to just look past that.
That would just be weird if there's a sex scene in a movie and then the kid taps the dad on the shoulder. Is this how I was made?
Uncomfortable moment.
What are the
No,
structural
your mom was on
similarities?
top.
Yeah. But I mean, this was. I'm trying to remember. At the time, I know this movie was a pretty big deal, but South Park itself was a pretty big deal at that time. It still
Yeah, it
is.
was probably like the height of like merchandising South Park was probably
Right.
around this time.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was something that South Park was like an in the moment thing back then too, and it stayed that way for a long time. And it's the weird combination of crazy TV show and song and dance that these guys have always been able to pull off.
Yeah.
I swear this came out in friggin' March or February too. It didn't come out in
Yeah, it was like early summer or something like that. I can look it up. So.
Pretty sure it didn't come out in a heavy traffic month. Because I'm sure Paramount thought it was gonna either do really badly because how bad or how grotesque and obscene it was, or just not enough pull because South Park at that time, yeah, third season, but how big are Comedy Central's numbers for ratings really back then? Because I think the show has gotten bigger as it's gone on.
Oh, July 4th weekend.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Did not see that coming.
Nothing more patriotic than Uncle Fucker.
It might have been counter programming to something else that came out that weekend.
If you don't like Shrek 2, go see
Yeah.
South Park. Bigger, longer, uncut.
Oh, here it says June 99.
Oh.
Okay, so box office says opening weekend 23 million, 4th of July, wide release.
Huh.
So I don't know, we got conflicting shit here.
May is a close release on June something, and then it was full open on July 4th.
Movies released in...
I'm sure I mean, Paramount probably wanted to rush it because it's like any other, oh, this is really fucking popular in pop culture right now. Let's really monetize this before it goes away or gets unpopular.
Well, that's what they did with Beavis and Butthead was they tried to they rushed a movie in
Yeah.
because Beavis and Butthead, I think it was popular for like 4 years.
Okay, on Wikipedia it says it was released on June 30th, alongside Wild Wild West.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Hey, who can forget that one?
I always forget about that movie because I'd like to forget about that movie.
Yeah.
I mean,
Big fighter in it.
because who was crap? What was I gonna say? Because as far as like always rushing stuff, as far as pop culture popularity, it seems like especially nowadays they're always far behind the fucking ball. Like something came out 3 years after something died.
Yeah.
Like
The Emoji Movie.
yeah.
The Angry Birds movie.
And now it's getting a sequel because it needs one for some reason.
Yeah. It made money the first time.
I think I got halfway through the first one. It was okay. But no, it's...
Well, yeah, it takes like 3 years to put like a movie into production, and it's like if something's only going to be hot for like a year, that when the movie gets released, it's like this is dead. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Because
this movie never had a sequel yet.
Well, I'm pretty sure they don't have anybody that'll back another movie from them. If it was
no, they would. They could.
Really?
But now they don't. Now there's pretty much no restriction. Like they can just make whatever they want, and then like Comedy Central just censor it on air. But what's on their website is uncensored. Like there's no. If you watch South Park on their website, there's no bleeps, there's no blurs, nothing like that.
Oh, okay. Because I haven't ever watched anything on their website. I've only watched it through
Hulu
rebroadcast.
Yeah. But they did go and make like they have like the basketball movie. You had the Team America.
That was another fun time. The studio loved that too. They're like, what the fuck?
Everyone has AIDS, huh?
Everyone.
I don't know what they've done after that. I think just like Book of Mormon.
Book
of Mormon's their big thing.
Otherwise, I know they're very tired of making that show and they don't really want to do it anymore.
But it's how they make money.
Well, I know, but at the same time, I think they've made enough money is their point that they don't need to do it anymore. They just, Comedy Central won't cancel them.
Yeah.
So they just keep doing it. Not that it's a bad thing. I've only disliked one season so far, but that's just because of the...
I haven't watched like the last like 6 seasons, but that doesn't mean necessarily like, I think South Park's bad or anything like that. It's just like I kind of... I think I binged like up to the current season like 6 years ago, and it's like okay, and then I was just kind of done. Like when you watch 90 South Park episodes in a row, it's like all right, I've seen the series.
Well, it's probably like the best episode in like the last 5 years for me was the episode where like Clyde and Tweek had to be gay.
Yeah.
Just because like there's some kind of weird Korean or Japanese animation where it's males like that look romantically
was it
involved.
yaoi porn or something
yeah,
like that?
it's like so they're just like the girls started drawing them that way and they're like we're not gay. They're like they're broke up. It's horrible, and the whole school's depressed. They just pretend to be gay with each other to make the school happy.
The RPGs they've put out recently are pretty good, like the Stick of Truth and the Fractured Butthole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're pretty good, and they work closely with those games. That was kind of like instead of doing a movie, they did the you got the video game, which is a way longer than episode of South Park.
Yeah, I remember Grayson was playing those, and like I like the character classes. Like you had like Paladin, and there was a bunch of them, and then one of them was just Jew.
Yeah,
it was like a character class. It was like
that's the wizard class.
Yeah. Cartman's narrating. Oh, I see you've chosen Jew. Not okay. Not a good choice, or says something like that.
Yeah.
Damn, these guys are just doing it all.
No, they don't seem to have any boundaries as far as making fun of anybody ever.
No.
Well, there was a great article. I forget what it was, but it basically said Matt Parker and Trey Stone are not your friends because they're talking about how they attack every because as soon as people politically identify with them, they attack them.
Yeah.
Because remember they went after conservatives. I've always gone after liberals, but basically anyone who says, "Oh yeah, I like those guys," that's a figure. They attack them. That's their thing. It's like we don't like people. People make things suck, or at least that's what I get.
Yeah.
Especially gluten, that'll make your dick fly off and explode. You'll die.
I was weird. What is even on Comedy Central nowadays? Like I haven't turned on Comedy Central for fucking 10 years.
Well, Key and Peele's been off the air for a couple of years, so
Okay.
that's not on there
I watched
anymore.
all the gifs of that, so I'm good.
Yeah, South Park's still on.
I know they have Drunk History. I hear good things about that.
Yeah, but that keeps going on and off like hiatuses, so I don't know if that's really. I think they're still supporting it, but I don't know how much longer that show will go.
It's getting
on.
expensive to produce and to find people that are willing to take the time to do it.
I think it's like Funny or Die. They just kind of when they have the time, they make it.
Yeah.
But then otherwise,
Was it
don't they
Broad
still have the
City?
Daily Show? Not that I care to watch it anymore.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a while. Trevor knows fine, but I just don't.
And then
I watched a lot of years of the Daily Show, and it's not necessarily anything new. It's like okay. Yeah.
But I mean, other than that, I think they still have like one or two other original shows. Because Workaholics has been done for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And then, fuck, I think they still have like Rick and Morty and shit, like their Adult Swim lineup. But that's pretty much it.
Oh yeah, they're doing re-airings of or BoJack Horseman. They've
Oh yeah,
made
that's
some
right.
of that. But yeah, I haven't watched. So I remember that used to be like when MTV started to suck. It's like I just switched to Comedy Central. It's like yeah,
Yeah.
here's my thing now, and then just at some point, just totally got away from Comedy Central, and I don't even know what's on there anymore, or even what they do, or even if they even do stand-up comedy anymore. Well, I know they do a lot of extensive stuff with their online thing, but I don't even go to their online stuff.
Yeah.
I think no, never mind. I was thinking another show, and then I was like, no, that's not that network. So yeah, I don't know what Comedy Central.
Last time I tuned into Comedy Central to see something was when Hannibal Buress had his own show. If that tells you how long ago that was. That didn't last one season.
But also, I used to be religiously, after Comedy Central, maybe Adult Swim. I used to get really into Adult Swim, and then probably then after that, a while after that, probably around Assy McGee. That's probably when I got rid of the TVs down here, and I was just on my computers. And then after that, I didn't really watch TV ever again.
Yeah.
At least not on cable TV.
I haven't missed much. Let's see, Game of Thrones or True Detective or about 5 other shows that I regularly watch. The only reason I keep premium cable package is for 5 shows.
Yeah. Yeah, but I watch that all on demand. I don't watch them while they air. I don't do that shit anymore.
Is there a little dog? Is the little dog ready to go to bed? Is she outside or in the house? Oh, that's cute. Poor little dog. Oh, back. Oh, yep. Nipple hunt.
But I remember so I was while rewatching the movie, I was like, yeah, this is enjoyable, but I didn't really re-laugh at anything until I got to the doctor scene, which I guess I kind of forgot about that whole scene.
Oh yeah.
And they're working on Kenny, and they have to put the heart in the microwave. It's like, God damn it, Johnson, who's making a baked potato? It's like, sorry, sir, I missed lunch. And then
Was it George Clooney that actually voiced.
yeah,
the
yeah,
dog?
it's George Clooney, yeah, because he kind of got them their start because they made a video that Santa Claus video that got sent around. He loved it, so he's vaguely responsible for South Park getting into Comedy Central.
Well, good.
And then they wake Kenny up. It's like, Kenny, we accidentally replaced your heart with a baked potato. You have about 3 seconds to live. And he's like, what the fuck? And he's like, God damn it! It doesn't get any easier. And he just walks away and starts whistling. Then I laughed out loud.
I forgot about that one. Yeah, I mean, really, in this movie, the song and dance, the story was good. But yeah, the song and dance stuff was really nuts.
I really like the "Little Boy You're Going to Hell" song, but it's like some sort of Metallica cover essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, I like how like stopping people from swearing leads to a war with Canada and the apocalypse. That's an interesting story connection. That's
Operation Get Behind the Darkies.
Yeah, because Chef and all the guys are out there like, what?
Or they just shoot Bill Gates because the computer wasn't working.
Yeah.
You said Windows 98 was going to be faster. Shoots him in the fucking head.
No. How many times hasn't South Park made fun of Canada in some way, or?
Well, they have a whole art style attached to Canada.
Yeah, I know.
The flapping heads.
Yeah. And people that fart and queef all the time. That's the only humor. And then they have like weird food.
Was Terrence and Phillip, was that just something that, like, is that supposed to be like a take on a lot of things, or was that just supposed to be like them taking on Beavis and Butthead in some weird way?
What I remember of Terrence and Phillip was that appeared when they were going to announce who Cartman's father was, and then the next episode was just solid wall-to-wall Terrence and Phillip.
Yeah.
Didn't even say anything about. I think it started off as a fuck you to the audience.
Okay.
Took its own, I'm just guessing, but it started off as that, and then it became its own life form of like, oh yeah, guys are quirky and weird, and we'll just do the Terrence and Phillip thing, and because they had many follow-up Terrence and Phillip episodes. Because they had like a behind the music Terrence and Phillip, where one of them was fat and one of them was strung out on drugs, and it was like the old rock stars. And they had all kinds of things.
There was one like famous. I'm not sure if it's famous. Maybe it's just like internet famous, where they keep saying, like, they're aggressively saying things to each other, like, "I'm not your buddy, guy. I'm not your guy, pal. I'm not your pal.
I'm not your friend,
Oh.
buddy."
But I think I was like an American and a Canadian arguing with each other.
And then I was trying to think what the last one with the Canadian. Oh, they made Donald Trump the president of Canada, and they said, "Hey, it's not funny. Don't do this." This was before the election, and then who's the guy who's the gay?
Mr. Garrison?
Yeah, Mr. Garrison fucks Donald Trump to death. Because that was his thing politically. It's like, I'm going to fuck him to death. And then he becomes like the stand-in for Donald Trump. And, you know, I mean, because they're not too, they're obliquely political. But yeah. So that was the last thing I remember with Canada. Oh, wait, no, they had the self-driving, or they had the ride-sharing car that ran off queefs. A car with like square wheels, and it looked, yeah, I think they had that one too. Yeah, they've always got weird shit like Canada's a foreign country full of aliens or something. I don't trust them with their beating eyes and their flappy heads.
I resent that, madam. That is racist. Can I finish? Can I finish? I didn't finish.
No, I just like the last thing I liked politically from their one of the last episodes I saw was when it was still right before the 2016 election was about to go down, where it was like the election between douchebag and turd or something.
That's a shit sandwich and a douche or something.
Yeah, a douche, and it's like confusing which one was which, because like technically they're both the same thing, but at the same time it's like, okay, Hillary's the douche and Mr. Garrison's a sandwich or whatever, but then it's like Mr. Garrison's like, this is a joke, I'm not actually gonna win, right? It's like, I don't want to be president, and then it's like, well, shit sandwich, you got a lot of votes behind it was just like him winning and building a wall around Canada, and yeah, still doing his whole, I'm gonna fuck him to death, and just going around the country fucking people to death.
And then Caitlyn Jenner was his enforcer.
Yeah, he was like his like, yeah, Secretary of State or whatever.
And she
like
kept running over people and killing them.
Yeah. And just talking weird. Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah.
And I didn't really. I mean, it kind of focused on Hillary a little bit, but it was mostly just like her being dumb. It wasn't anything in particular like that was like really standout or funny.
No. Well, anyway, that's South Park.
Bigger, longer, and uncut.
You know?
One of the best comedies that year.
Yeah.
There's quite a few. Well, I'm not sure I want to say good, but a lot of notable comedies that came out in '99. And it's also, I guess, somewhat telling of movies in '99 because anytime I bring one up, it's like I'll have to go fish that up out of the library. So it's like, I must be as effective as '99 was. That a lot of people have these in their DVD libraries, but it was also kind of the era for the rise of the DVDs. So
Yeah, with like this, it's like 10 director commentaries.
yeah.
Oh.
And also, when movies of '99 started coming out, that would be the year 2000, and that's when the PlayStation 2 came out, which was probably one of the most attainable DVD players you could have.
Yeah,
it was like $300. It was like $300, but so was a regular DVD player.
Right.
It's like, well, this one can play video games, so I might as well get that DVD player that can play video games as well.
Yeah, because I had this movie on VHS tape, and I don't think I do anymore because I got rid of all of it.
All my VHS stuff's gone.
That's
You have to throw it away. There's no way you can sell it. I tried to sell all that shit on eBay. Nobody bought it. I should.
eBay
If
has
I'd known,
prices, yeah.
well, maybe I still have that stuff. I should send that shit to Red Letter Media because that's where people just send all their VHS shit to.
VHS stuff.
Well, what really sucks about VHS and what really lowers the resale value on it is like shipping like fucking 20 VHSs like costs like fucking $50.
Yeah.
It's just a weight.
Yeah, it's just the weight.
Raw weight.
Well, thank God it's not anything. I don't know. I found out something shipping wise from where I work is apparently if you just say like a window pane, right? Like a big, wide, long window pane, like $30 to ship it in a box, and it's like 12 pounds. You put a hose on top of that 12-pound window pane, it becomes $350 because it's like an inch taller and it weighs like a pound more. And it's like, are you fucking kidding me? That's gotta be the stupidest. Like, oh, the dimensions are weird. It's like, yeah, that's horse shit. Like,
Oh yeah, that stuff's all a racket.
yeah, that's why I haven't sold a lot of stuff on eBay recently because I'm just like, I'll probably just have to use most of my profits in shipping, so I don't even bother.
There was a way you can't like there. I think I could have used something for the VHSs, but there's something where if you're shipping media, you can get like a huge discount on it. But it's like, but if like you use it incorrectly, like the government can like fine you.
It seems like a silly fine to incur.
Well, because there's a lot of people's like, I don't want to pay that shipping cost. It's like, this is media, and it's like a fucking, like weight set. It's like, I spent 5 cents to mail this. It's like, you fucking just robbed the government.
It's an anvil. It's a special musical anvil, therefore it's media. All right. Well, I think that's it for me.
Yep.
You guys got anything else?
I mean, just what's on the list, but we're not going to go through that shit.
Yeah.
We're almost 3 hours in.
I need to talk about Midnight Meat Train at some point.
We will get to it next week, I promise.
And First Man.
Yeah, you guys.
Yeah.
I won't be here next week, so you can talk about
Okay.
whatever you want.
All right. Well, this week for the American Greed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
Andrew?
Goodbye, America.